Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the fifth weekly show, NBA talk show of the MVP, aka Metnick and Vinci Productions. Here on my left is my co-host Zach Vinci. In the past 2 weeks on our podcast, we've talked about our predictions for Western Conference teams and then Eastern Conference teams. And today we're going to throw it all together and combine it, and we're going to give our rankings 1 through 30 on all NBA teams, give our opinion on how we think every team's going to do in this upcoming season, which preseason's finally starts. We've been able to see a couple of the players that, we've been able to see how rookies are looking, everything like that. LaMelo Ball's finally playing after all the hype around his name. And it's just going to be a really fun season. Once again, we'd like to thank I-95 Radio Network for having us. You can find us on my Facebook, Bobby Blackjack's Facebook, the I-95 Facebook page, my YouTube, I-95 YouTube, and of course on the I-95 website. But wrapping that up, I say we get right into it. So the way we're going to do it today is we're going to go from 30 to 1, talk about, who the worst teams in the league are going to be, as we think. Really, there's really only 4 or 5 actual bad teams in the league. Let me put that out there. There's so many competitive teams in the league, and it looks like everyone's making moves to go in the right direction with their franchise. So the NBA is just such a fun league.
Yeah, I literally think there's going to be at least 12 teams competing in the West. So there's so many good teams this year. We got a lot to unpack in the next hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, this offseason also has just changed our minds for some teams. Yeah. I mean, we've seen teams we've been watching basketball for 10 plus years now, and seeing a couple of the teams that are finally starting to make moves to make themselves a winning franchise is kind of cool. And so real quick, would like to put it out there. I am rocking today my Kentucky 14 Tyler Hero jersey, which I bought in the middle of the season before he started getting all the hype.
I can vouch for that. You bought that before the bubble even started.
Yes, no, I watched Tyler. I didn't know anything about Tyler Hero right before the draft, and then I watched his highlights, and I was like, this kid's gonna be a stud. And next thing you know, that was one of a good prediction from mine. But
how do you think he'll be on the Rockets once they trade him for James Harden?
Oh, hot take. Also, if anyone's watching, comment your opinions and everything. We'll put it up on the screen, and we'd love to discuss some stuff with you. And so, yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. So at the 30th, the rock bottom worst NBA team in the NBA, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder. I apologize, Will, but yeah, I got the Thunder.
I have them at 29.
Okay.
So I don't have them at the bottom.
You have a team worse than them.
I have a team worse than them. With the Thunder, it's going to be tough to judge this year because this was a team that was a top 10 team last year and then lost everyone. Like, they traded every single one of their good players, as we discussed.
Everybody.
I gave them an A+ in the offseason review. This is a team building for the future, not for right now. I will be shocked if they're not the worst team in the West. Maybe the worst team in the league, but there's one team I think is worse than them.
The reason I have them at 30 is because the other day I was on FaceTime with my buddy Will, who is an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, and he goes, "Hunter, can you name their starting 5 and 2 bench players?" And I can't name their starting point guard right now if Shea's not their starting point guard. So listen, this is not a bad thing, Oklahoma City Thunder fans. Let me throw that out there. This is the best thing you could have done was go rebuild mode. They have 17 or 19 first round picks in the next 5 years or 6 years. You guys are set to rebuild. If I'm an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, I want Cade Cunningham. So being at the bottom of this list right now is the best option for us.
They'll be fine in a couple of years when they've got Cade Cunningham and Bronny and Mikey Williams and every single young stud in the league.
Yeah. So the Thunder, as of right now, you had your goodwill playoff run. Everything, that was fun. Chris Paul led you guys. It gave your young guys like Lou Dort, who a lot of people are saying is going to be a very, very good defensive player in the next couple of years. Shea, it gave them some playoff experience. You don't even have Steven Adams anymore. You kind of replaced him with Al Horford. So
they got the best. I was about to say they got the best center in the league now, Al Horford.
Yeah, they wish. The Sixers wish that was what it was. But yeah, I've got the Thunder at 30th in the NBA and 15th in the West. And so now let's move on to. Yeah,
okay.
I want to hear what your 30th team in the West is, in the team in the league is.
My number 30 is the New York Knicks.
Okay, I have them at 29, so we just flipped them. You
so
got to put the Knicks there.
You got the worst team in the East. This is just the worst organization in basketball. I mean, this is also not just the worst organization in basketball. This is one of the worst organizations in all pro sports. Like, the Knicks are pathetic at this point. What they should be doing is focusing on Obi Toppin and Mitch Robinson and all of their young guys, Nila Akina, whoever. And the last preseason game, they started Julius Randle over Obi Toppin. And they didn't start Mitch Robinson. They had Mitch Robinson coming off the bench again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what this organization is thinking. I don't. Like,
no.
They're not doing anything right. So I think they're going to be the worst team in the league again this year. And Obi Toppin is the answer.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to put this out there. RJ Barrett was snubbed of an all-rookie team. Listen, as bad as the Knicks were, RJ Barrett is a talented enough player where he should have at least gotten onto the All-NBA second team. I don't care if he's the number one option on the worst team in the league and still average bad efficiency. RJ Barrett, I think, is an underrated player who's going to go under the radar for a little bit because his scoring ability, he has a very nice scoring ability. I watched one of the Knicks preseason games, either it was yesterday or a couple of days ago, and he just looks like a smooth player to watch. As long as he's on his game. Also, the Knicks have no one else, so why would his efficiency be good? They have no one else to pass the ball to, and I'm on the train with you. I don't think Obi Toppin's going to be the answer. To bring Mitchell Robinson off the bench to me is an absolute joke. I mean, he's a center that on the contract he's on, he's a center that so many teams would love to be their starting center, and unfortunately, he's still coming off the bench. But the Knicks are definitely the worst team in the East.
Yeah, and to go along with what you're saying about RJ Barrett too is the Knicks had the worst floor spacing in the league last year, and he still averaged 14 points per game his rookie year. Yeah. So give him time. I mean, he's looked pretty bad I don't know if you've watched any of the Knicks preseason so far. He's looked really bad so far. He's been missing everything. But I'll give him some time. I don't know. I just don't think the Knicks are going to be very good this year.
Yeah, no, not. They're bottom 2 team in the NBA, and they made a couple
last year who I thought they were going to make a playoff push.
Yeah, they made a couple of free agency moves, but nothing that's going to ever help them enough to make them a top even. They probably won't even be the 12th in the East.
Yeah,
there's no way that they're
lucky. No, actually, no, because then they'll get the 8th pick again.
True. So yeah, moving on to the 28th team in the NBA. I have another Eastern Conference team. I feel like the East kind of dominates this 25 through 30 range. I have the Detroit Pistons.
Okay, I have the Pistons at 27. So one above.
Yeah, so if we're going to talk about the Pistons, they made a couple moves with Mason Plumlee, Jeremy Grant. And I was watching them in preseason. What were these signings, man? Oh my! Listen, and when we were talking about the Eastern Conference, right? I said, I can't believe I said this out loud. I said that I kind of liked some of the signings that the Pistons did. The fact that they're relying on Jeremy Grant to be a starting small forward for them, and they still haven't traded Derrick Rose. Blake Griffin is not a terrible power forward. Let me say this. He looks pretty solid, Blake Griffin. I'll give them that, but not on the Pistons. I just don't see them doing anything, making any noise. But we love Killian Hayes, so I hope they do.
See, with the Pistons were a tough one for me to rank because I think there's a good chance they could be the worst team in the league this year if it doesn't come together. But I also think if you got a healthy Blake Griffin and a healthy Derrick Rose, this team made the playoffs 2 years ago.
Yeah.
If Killian Hayes is really that guy and Jeremy Grant ends up coming in and playing pretty well and Blake Griffin returns from his injury, this team could make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm not as low on the Pistons as everyone else. I know I have them all the way at 27, but I think it could go one of two ways. I think there's a good chance that they're actually a lot better than people expect if Blake plays well, but I think it's more like 75-80% chance that they're going to suck.
Yeah, I didn't like the fit either.
Detroit makes some noise.
Yeah, the fits that they liked of their signees, just none of it looked right on the court. Mason Plumlee is not a starting center in the NBA. in 2K maybe, but not in the NBA. Blake Griffin though, the fact that he has really changed his game to being a stretch four now, and he's able to like ISO threes. I saw him do a step back three on a defender the other day, and I was like, this is like a fun Blake Griffin. Like I'd love to see this like him on a contending team. I think he'd be a fun power forward on a contending team, but he's making $36 million a year, and no one's gonna pay that much money on a contending team for him. But the Pistons, you guys made some interesting moves in the offseason, and there's no way that I'd be shocked if they're a playoff team.
Yeah, one note before we move on. People are going to forget in the future how good first-year Pistons Blake Griffin was. I would argue that was the best season of his career. Was this first season with the Pistons 2 years ago. Or not the one when it was like midway through, but his first full season.
Yeah.
He was when they made the playoffs, he was good. Like he was really good. He carried that team, and I know he's had injury problems in this past year, but I'm really hoping he goes back to the form he was a couple years ago, because that was, to me, the best I've ever seen Blake Griffin.
Yeah, I mean, Blake Griffin's always been a guy. Even when he was on that Lob City Clippers, everyone rooted for them to win. I mean, they were just the fun team to watch. Even they even had Jamal Crawford, JJ Redick there. It was just a cool team. So I hope that Blake Griffin can rebound and he's been injury prone for a little bit, and just keep himself having good solid seasons. And just hope that the Pistons can. I hope Killian Hayes. That's all I really care about when you're talking Detroit. Also, Sadiq Bey has been looking pretty solid. The Pistons drafted really well, and then had a really bad free agency. So I could see it going either way. Like you at 27, or actually, who do you have at 28 before? Because I think I probably have 27.
I've got the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I've got the Cavaliers at 27.
Yep. The Cavaliers, I think this is a team all about development at this point. They're getting the young pieces. They've got Sexton, they've got Garland, they've got Kevin Porter Jr., they've got Isaac Okoro, has looked so good in the preseason so far. It almost made me move the Cavs up a little bit. But I mean, you never know. You can't bank on preseason. Anthony Bennett was a stud in preseason, so you can never look at just preseason. But Okoro's looked great so far. And they still have Andre Drummond. They still have Kevin Love. This team's actually not terrible if Sexton can really put it together. I just don't think they have a good enough point guard. Like, I like Garland, but he's not really a distributor. He's more of a scorer. I don't like the fit with him and Sexton in the backcourt. I think the Cavs, they're going to be at the bottom. I don't think they're one of the best teams. I don't think they have enough pieces. I think this is just a team, right? Rebuild, move on.
Yeah.
Probably going to be one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah, going back really quickly to talk to Michael about Blake Griffin.
Yeah.
Yes, I completely agree with that. Blake Griffin. Yeah, I mean, Blake Griffin went from that athletic, crazy finishing power forward, one of the best dunkers in NBA history, and now his IQ looks just like off the charts. And so, Mike, I
as his athleticism started to dip, his skill and his game IQ and just everything else about his game got better. So that's why I'll take today Blake, or a year ago Blake, over any of his LAC days.
Yeah. Going back to the Cavaliers, I had them at 27, so we both had the same bottom four. Michael thinks the Cavs can improve this year. I think I think every team's really improving except for like the Thunder and the Knicks. I think they're just two teams that won't ever get better, or they won't get better. The Knicks won't get better for a really long time. The Thunder will eventually in 5-6 years. But with the Cavs, I actually liked Darius. I'm a big Darius Garland fan. I think his ball handling along with his passing, I think if he can develop it more and more, I could see him just being a viable like starting point guard in the NBA. I'm with you though. I don't like the fit next to Colin Sexton. Colin Sexton's just a score first, athletic shooting. I can't tell if he's a shooting guard or point guard because he's only 6'1". He reminds me a lot of what Donovan Mitchell is for Utah. That's why I think Garland can be a viable point guard for that team. But Isaac Okoro is looking really, really good. I hope they start him at small forward. They have three decent, like all around decent small forwards, and Okoro, Kevin Porter Jr., who I think needs to be developed still, and Cedi Osman, who seems like he's going to be the odd man out, even though you put him on the bench of a contending team, and he could probably give you some good minutes. But
The thing about the Cavs that I think is most interesting is people forget that Sexton quietly averaged over 20 points per game last year. And I don't think anyone remembers. Sexton, I think, is going to be in contention for most improved player this year. I think he's going to have a monster season. I think he's going to average 24, 25 points per game. Wow. He'll kind of do what Zach LaVine did with the Bulls last year, kind of be like the anchor for a team that's not quite a playoff team, but improving young team, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see them. They're not at this spot right now where they can really compete for a playoff seed. They're too young still and need to develop. I think everyone was kind of hoping Kevin Love would get off that team to see Kevin Love compete for a championship again, but doesn't seem like that as of right now. And then they also re-signed, or Andre Drummond picked up his player option, so he's probably going to be gone after this season. I don't see Andre Drummond wanting to return. But you never know with the Cavs. They could be a fun team to watch for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
So, moving on to now the 26. Yeah, 26 for both of us. I have another Eastern Conference team.
Okay. I have a Western team, so let's see what you got.
Okay, I have the Chicago Bulls. Actually,
all right, this is our first big difference. I've got the Bulls up at 23. So I've got the Bulls 3 spots ahead of you.
Interesting. So let's talk about that. That is weird. The reason I have the Bulls so low is because I think Billy Donovan can do his role in developing the young guys. But Lauri Markkanen really can't stay healthy right now. To me, Wendell Carter at 6'9" is not really your answer as center. And I still don't know what they're doing at that small forward position with Otto Porter and then Otto Porter 2.0, who's 19 years old, and Patrick Williams.
He's looked good so far. I'm just saying.
Yeah, so did Anthony Bennett. So I don't see the Bulls being that great in the East. I don't see them keeping contention. But what are your thoughts on the Bulls? Because you have them at 23.
Yeah, I think this is going to be Kobe White's season. I love Kobe White, and I think he's going to make a big jump this year. So I've got Kobe White jumping up to average about 17, 18 points per game this year. He'll be the second option. I think LaVine's about the same player as he was last year. The biggest key with the Bulls is they got Jim Boylan out, who was I mean, this comes from a Sixers fan who hated Brett Brown. I think Jim Boylan was the worst coach in the league last year. So I think they're a step in the right direction now. Obviously, the franchise has been pretty poor. Yeah, the Bulls have been in disarray for a couple of years now. But I think they're going to turn the page to go in the right direction. Lauri Markkanen was looking really good before last season when Jim Boylan really screwed with his development. So I'm thinking I think Markkanen could have another step up this year. Wendell Carter said he's finally allowed to stretch the floor a little bit, which I don't know if that's the best idea considering he missed 4 threes in their first preseason game the other night. But I think given more freedom with Billy Donovan's coaching, I think this is a young core that can really come together and make some noise. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but I think LaVine's going to be good. I think LaVine's going to compete for an all-star spot this year. I think Kobe White's going to be in the talk for most improved player. And I just think this is a team on the rise. I don't think they're good enough to be a playoff team yet, but they're going to be better than last year.
Yeah, I have them right with Cleveland as where they are development-wise. Cleveland doesn't have a stud player as Zach LaVine is, but when I talked to a couple of Bulls fans, one of my favorite YouTubers is a Bulls fan, and he would not buy season tickets living in Chicago until Jim Boylan was fired. So I think the Jim Boylan firing is the greatest thing ever for Chicago fans. I don't care. Billy Donovan might not be the perfect coach for you guys, but it's a miles on miles upgrade over Jim Boylan. Jim Boylan, thank God he is out of the league because, I mean, the stuff that I heard he was doing where he told Zach LaVine not to shoot the ball when Zach LaVine's averaging 25 he's the only scorer really last year on that team. And then that was the game against who was it? Was it the Charlotte Hornets who he hit the game-winning three-pointer against? I think it was the Hornets, but I don't see the Bulls getting better. I hope they just they keep developing their young guys. I like Kobe White a lot. I hope he can turn into what we think he can be in that most improved conversation. Yeah. But big discrepancy in our rankings. I don't see them getting much better than they were last year.
Yeah, and they were, I think, the 12 in the East last year. I've got them at the 11 this year. I think they're going to be slightly better, but overall, again, not quite a playoff team.
Yeah. So moving on to or actually, what was your 2016?
26. All right, this is next Western team, so 14 in the West. I got the Sacramento Kings.
Okay, I've got them at 24.
24. Okay, so 2 off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not huge on the Kings this year. I mean, that's another example of an organization that can't get anything right. Uh, Now, was it 15 years since they've made the playoffs? They look to be on the upward trend at the end of the 2019 season, and then they kind of screwed it up this past season and were one of the worst teams again.
Yeah.
They kept Buddy Hield, but overall with the core they've got, I know they added Hassan Whiteside. Marvin Bagley's going to be coming back from injury. There's potential, but the West is so loaded, and I don't think De'Aaron Fox is good enough to lead that team to anywhere outside of the bottom 3 in the West. So not much to say on them. I just don't think they made enough moves to improve it all.
Yeah, I have them 13th in the West. I have one other Western Conference team below them, which now that I'm looking at it, I kind of regret putting this team under them. But Sacramento, if you have something positive to look forward to, Tyrese Halliburton is looking fantastic. He had, I believe, an 11, 6, and 7 game the other day. I think his fit next to De'Aaron Fox is fantastic. I've always been a De'Aaron Fox fan. I'm glad that they locked him up for the next 5 years because he's really all that franchise has right now. I hope Marvin Bagley can return from injury and be somewhat of a number 2 overall pick. Now, he'll never be Luka. I apologize, Sacramento. You guys really, really messed up there. But I have them at 13th in the West with Buddy Hield still throwing fits about being there, and it doesn't seem like their chemistry is that great. Hassan Whiteside's not going to make that big of a difference. Let's be honest. And so I have them a little bit ahead of you, but really not too much.
Yeah.
And so 13th in the West for me. I'll talk about the team that I have one below them at 25 and 14th in the West. And I can't believe I'm about to say right now that I'm doubting Greg Popovich, but I have the San Antonio Spurs at 14th in the West.
25?
25 for me, yeah.
All right, I've got the Spurs at 24. So
exactly. I have the Kings at 24, so it could be flipped either way. But the Spurs just don't have the talent right now. Every other team got better. They re-signed DeMar DeRozan, which I was so surprised about because DeMar could have had a bigger impact on so many other teams, but he took his player option. Well, Marcus Aldridge is not a center that anyone wants starting right now. His defensive presence and just the San Antonio Spurs are just not going to be a great team this year. I'm sorry, Popovich. I hope you could turn them into that 9-10 seed again. But if I'm looking forward to one thing for the Spurs, Dejounte Murray is just going to keep getting better. And I've always been high on Dejounte Murray. I think he's an all defensive player at some point in his career. But I don't see the Spurs being better than like a 13 or 12 seed.
Yeah, they're bringing back mostly the same team as last year, which people forget was a game and a half out of making the playoff or the play-in game. So I don't think the Spurs are quite as bad as people I think have them this year. It's just that every other team is getting better and they're staying pretty much the same. But
here real quick, Michael, thank you. This is what we're looking for. We do this for fun. Zach and I start real quick just so while we're talking about the Spurs. Zach and I started this podcast because we both just loved basketball and we'd FaceTime each other and talk about basketball for hours. Literally, we'd be on FaceTime with someone and then Zach would add me to the FaceTime and next thing you know they left because we just got too caught up in talking about basketball. And so this is what we love. This is what we do. We don't go to college together anymore. So the way we communicate is by talking basketball, and we can't go play basketball like we did back a year ago. But thank you, Michael. This really does mean a lot to us. And so go back to the Spurs.
I like Lonnie Walker a lot. I think I'm big on him. I like DeJounte Murray. I know you like Murray a lot more than I do though. A name to watch out for, Luka Samanic. Keep an eye on Luka Samanic. He came in towards the end of this past season and actually played pretty decent for the Spurs. So I think Pop loves his European guys. So don't be surprised if he makes a bit of an impact this year. But overall, the Spurs they're exactly what you're going to expect from them, right? They're gonna compete probably for a playoff spot. As much as I that sounds crazy to say with the roster they've got, but because of Popovich, I just have them
Yeah.
so low because I don't think that they have any upside. Like, I don't think they have any. There's no chance I see them being above like a 9 seed or a 10 seed.
Yeah, they just didn't make any moves to get better. When I look at other teams, and they made the necessary moves that they think can put them into playoff contention. There's a lot of younger teams now that normally I wouldn't put above the Spurs, but you'd have to put a team like the Pelicans, the Grizzlies, like those young teams who might not make the playoffs, but they're moving in the right direction. They're developing their young guys. You have to put teams like that above the Spurs right now, because running it back with DeMar DeRozan, who doesn't want to be there, Dejounte Murray, who I am high on, but maybe an all-defensive player, but his offensive game is still kind of lackluster. And then LaMarcus Aldridge is not the modern day. He's just not a great center right now. So Spurs and Kings can go really either way as we have it. But those two are going to be probably bottom 4 teams in the West.
Yeah.
And so I'll move on to there's our 25.
That was actually 26 for me. So the only one was
your 25.
My 25, another Eastern Conference team that I think is going to make a step down this year is the Orlando Magic.
Okay. I actually have them at 22, 10th in the East.
So you got, I have them 12th in the East. I got the Bulls ahead of them. And then one more Eastern Conference team I'm sure we'll talk about later. But the Magic are bringing back pretty much the exact same team as last year. I know they grabbed Cole Anthony, who I wasn't the biggest on. I just think, again, every team in the East is improving at least a little bit. And I don't think the Magic improved at all. This was a team that made the playoffs. They were the 8th seed this year. They took a game from the Bucks, but again, they didn't really make any moves. I'm not huge on Aaron Gordon. I like Jonathan Isaac, but I don't know how long it's going to take him to recover from his injury. Markelle Fultz, I think he's decent, but I think we gotta see a little bit more from him before I could say that he's going to be a good enough point guard to lead this team. Again, I just think the Magic are a decent team. I think they'll win some games. But overall, they're not super exciting, and I don't think they'll be in the playoff race this year. I just don't think they have enough pieces.
Yeah, just because of how I've kind of based the Magic off of how they did last season, and they find a way to win weird games and just win. They always find a way to be that 8, 9, 10 seed in the East, and so that's why I'd have to put them over a team like a developing Bulls, and then I have them 10th in the East, so I've got another team below them, but the Magic are just the Magic right now. Markelle Fultz, I've always been a fan of Markelle Fultz. I feel like Philly really, really messed up his development and everything. Listen, no hate to Philly. Their development hasn't been bad, but it did stink. It sucked to see, Markelle Fultz when he couldn't even shoot the ball. I'm like, you're the number 1 overall pick, and like that, like Philly has a thing for drafting people at 1 that can't shoot. But Markelle Fultz, I'm hoping that he can succeed. He looked I watched a little bit of the Magic preseason. I'll probably watch a little bit more as we go into it. Markelle and Cole Anthony looked decent together. I can't say anything yet because it's just preseason, but they looked like they complemented each other's games pretty well. And I'm a big John Isaac fan. I think he could be a defensive player of the year in sometime in his career, as long as he's showing he's making an impact.
Back though.
Say that again.
It's a couple months before he comes back though, right?
Yeah, that's what's frustrating, and they didn't move on from Aaron Gordon, and Vucevic is still Vucevic. I mean, he'll average 20 and 10, and no one will know he is. But I don't see the Magic really being in. If they get the 1 seed, they'll take a game, or if they get the 8 seed, they'll take a game from the Bucks because they've done that the past couple of years. But besides that, they're not going to be an Eastern Conference contention.
Yeah, agreed.
And so I'll talk about real quick the one team.
You're 23, right?
Yes, 23. The one team that I have below the Magic are the LaMelo Ball-led Charlotte Hornets.
So I've got the Hornets up at 21. This is a team I like. I like the Hornets.
Okay, let's hear it.
So,
let me hear your thoughts.
I got them at 10 in the East, so not quite a playoff team, but I think it's going to be a major. I mean, if you look at the Hornets last year, right? The Hornets were the 10 seed in the East last year.
Yeah.
People forget that. And they were supposed to be the worst team in the league. They were the 10th seed in the East. They were the last team to miss out on the bubble. And and they were looking good by the end of the season. They had Miles Bridges improving. They had PJ Washington improving. They had Now they've got LaMelo Ball playing point guard. They brought in Gordon Hayward. They still have Devontae Graham, who was in my opinion, was one of the most improved players last year. They'll probably move on from Terry Rozier, but if not, he's still an 18-point per game scorer type of guy. This team has all the pieces to be a surprise playoff team this year. I'll say that right now. I don't think they'll quite make it. I think they'll be one of the play-in teams and eventually lose out to one of the better teams ahead of them. But this is a really, really good young squad, and I think the Hornets. I think a lot of people have been clowning on the Hornets for signing Gordon Hayward to that ridiculous money, which I definitely don't think he was worth. So there's some truth in that criticism. But overall, I think they've done a very good job the last 2 seasons of rebuilding this roster. And if these guys are able to put it together, PJ Washington, LaMelo Ball, Bridges, if all these guys are able to put it together, maybe get one more piece in a couple of years, this is a playoff team pretty soon. And look for some improvement this year from the Hornets.
Yeah, really quick, going back to Orlando, I agree with they have to make improvements in management. They've messed up a couple of times in the draft. You know, they sign they keep drafting these mediocre guys who don't fit well with their team. Yeah. So hopefully in those 3 to 4 years, I hope Fultz finds himself also. So
yeah,
thanks for the comment, Michael.
I'm rooting for him.
Going back to Charlotte, I've been watching a lot of their preseason because I just want to watch LaMelo Ball play. Yeah. And although LaMelo Ball has definitely not been efficient at all, he's went over 5 and then 3 for 10 yesterday. He has such upside to his game. I mean, I watch him, a 6'8" point guard. He came into the league as a top 5 passer. I mean, his ball handling and passing skills are off the charts for a rookie. He can draw a defender. I saw him draw 2 defenders in the paint and then do a behind the back pass to Bismack Biyombo for a dunk. I mean, he's a highlight reel waiting to happen, and that's exactly what Charlotte needed to get their city, you know, on the map again, because they have not been good since really. Even they weren't even that good with Kemba Walker. I was going to say since Kemba, but
since ever.
Yeah. I mean, I feel bad for Hornets fans, but you have LaMelo now. You signed Gordon Hayward. He was not worth his contract, but they're making moves to go in the right direction and hopefully become a playoff team. I think that's all you could really hope for right now as a Hornets fan. But I don't think they're. I don't have them higher than the Magic. Still, I have the Bulls and Hornets below them just because I think the Magic have that core right now, and they don't have players that need to find themselves already. That's why I'd put the Magic a little bit ahead because they have that Vucevic player who just wins players, who will win games. But the Hornets are gonna be fun to watch. I'm gonna be tuning into a bunch of their games.
Yep. I just have the Hornets ahead of the Magic just because I like their upside a lot more. But what I was going to say before we move on, if LaMelo Ball is not the best player in Charlotte Hornets franchise history by the end of his career, I think he's a letdown. And I know that's going to be a really bold take. It's putting a lot of pressure on him. But in a franchise where Larry Johnson is probably your best player of all time,
maybe Del Curry
has not been kind. This team hasn't been good in a long time. I mean, you're talking like the mid-'90s since they were competitive. Yeah. So I think LaMelo's got to be the answer for this team. He's got to be one of the best players in history. I think that's what they're hoping for. Yeah, salary cap.
LaMelo, they did mess up a little. I think though that they needed to do that to show LaMelo that they want to compete. You know, Gordon Hayward. I mean, there were all the rumors about him going to Indiana. I was shocked that trade didn't go through, but LaMelo is I love Jason Williams. I'm a big white chocolate fan. I really want his jersey. I'm looking to get that in the next couple of weeks actually, because I've always loved Jason Williams. My dad brought me up on him, but LaMelo is with he's just exciting to watch. I mean, he made his second 3 in that league and then turned around and stared down the Raptors bench, and I'm like, LaMelo, that's your second shot ever. It was just fun. Yeah. He's just fun to watch, but his passing skills are absolutely off the charts.
Yep.
And so so now we've talked about, let's see, the Magic, Hornets, Kings, Spurs, Bulls, Cavs, Pistons, Knicks, and Thunder. That's who we've got down so far.
Rounding out the bottom 10? Is this what I'm hearing?
This is rounding out the bottom 10. So we got 21 right now, I believe, right?
My 22. I had the Hornets at 21. So my 22, we're going back to the Western Conference. The number 12 seed, I've got the Memphis Grizzlies.
Whoa, really?
Is this
I've got the Grizzlies? All
Where do you
right,
got?
I've got the Grizzlies at 16.
So 6 difference.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I'm not keen on the Grizzlies here, sorry to my roommate Bobby back home. If you're listening, I know you're a Grizzlies fan. Apologize about this. They're probably going to miss Jaren Jackson almost the entire season.
Oh, are they?
He's going to be gone for a long time.
Are they really?
Yeah. And
I did
with
not
that
know
kind of
that.
injury, I think he is necessary to this team because as much as all the hype is around Ja Morant and how good Ja Morant was last season, I mean, Jaren Jackson, he quietly averaged over 18 points per game last year.
Yes.
And he was easily their second most important player. He was improving steadily. I watched a game where he dropped, I think, 34 points. He had like 7 or 8 threes.
Awesome.
He's huge to their success last year, to their surprising run that led them to just miss out on the playoffs. But ultimately, they didn't really improve much this year. I like the Desmond Bay draft selection. I think that was a steal at 30, and I think he'll come in and contribute. I think he'll be on an all-rookie team this year. But other than that, I don't think they added enough pieces, and I think everyone else in the West is really improving around them. That I think even with I think it would require a big leap from Ja for them to make the playoffs this year. I think Ja would have to go to averaging about 28 and 10 this year for the Grizzlies to be in the contention.
Yeah, I was just looking at it. I honestly, I apologize. I had no idea that Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to be out for most of the season. So I'd have to put them now probably around where you have them.
22 around that.
Yeah. Around, I think I'd put them at 20 and move 4 teams up. I think Ja could, in the next 3 years, is going to be MVP candidate player. I am so high on Ja Morant. I like Ja Morant. I think Ja's going to be better than Zion. Hot take maybe, but I truly believe that Ja's that. He's the franchise point guard that Memphis needed out to get away from the Mike Conley, Marc Gasol, and Tony Allen era. Don't forget Tony Allen. He was big. I love Tony Allen. Yeah, and I forgot. I can't forget Zebo. But the Grizzlies, without Jaren Jackson Jr., I'm a big fan of Jonas Valanciunas. Actually, I was watching him play. Him and Yusuf Nurkic are such similar players, and Yusuf Nurkic is one of my favorite centers to watch. He brings that gritty attitude all the time, and I feel like Valanciunas does that too. And so, I hope Valanciunas can just be himself again and maybe average a little more points if Jaren's going to be out. But Brandon Clark hopefully can fill somewhat of a role of Jaren Jackson Jr. at that power forward position. He is not Jaren Jackson Jr. He can't really stretch the 4 at all like Jaren can. But
no, that's not true, is it?
Well, not to the not as good as Jaren.
He shot around 37% from 3 last year. I think it was like almost 1 per game. But I was gonna agree with you. Brandon Clark's someone to keep an eye on. He didn't play much his rookie season, only averaged about 20 minutes per game, but he still put up 12 points and was easily the most efficient player in the league. He shot over 60% from the field. I think he's going to make a big step this year, especially if he's going to be starting most of the year for JJJ. So look for him to improve a lot. But again, like I said before, I don't think this is a team that has enough pieces to compete in the loaded West unless Ja really takes the step and becomes a top 5 point guard in the league.
Yeah, without Jaren Jackson Jr., this team's not going to be able to compete like they did last year. But hopefully when Triple J gets healthy and Ja keeps improving, and even someone like Desmond Bane makes a little impact. I think they've been playing a lot more Grayson Allen too, and Grayson Allen's been a very good 3-and-D player. I've been enjoying watching him play, but without Triple J, the Grizzlies, they can't compete for the playoffs. Yep. So I'm actually going to move. I had them at 16 originally, not knowing about the Triple J. I'm going to move them down to I think 20. I still have one Western Conference team below them, but that we haven't talked about yet. But I'll put them at 20.
All right. Well, enlighten us. What is that Western Conference team you have below them?
I would put if the Grizzlies are going to be 11th in the West, the Timberwolves are going to be 12th in the West. That's where I have them sitting.
I have the Timberwolves 11th in the West, 19 overall.
Okay, I have them at 21 overall.
Okay.
So, and this is coming from the biggest D'Angelo Russell fan any of you guys will meet. D'Angelo Russell has just been. I've been watching him play in the preseason for that team. Oh my buckets! he is the smoothest and like just most easygoing point guard player in the NBA, and I will say that until for however long I need to for people to watch, him. But his just jump shot is it's somehow fast, but it looks like it's the slowest release in the league. He gets off these crazy shots, and he's finally healthy to play with Karl Anthony Towns. They didn't really they didn't play together last year at all. Anthony Edwards has not looked great in the preseason. I'll put that out there. He looks kind of like what I expected Anthony Edwards to be, but I just don't think they can really compete for a playoff spot. But God, I love D'Angelo Russell, so I'll take a step back and let you talk more about them, because I know you're also not a big Karl Anthony Towns guy. I think Karl Anthony Towns has potential to be a top 3 center in the NBA if he's not already. Offensively, he is. Defensively, he's not close. But Timberwolves will be a fun team to watch.
The Timberwolves, if they were the worst team in the league this year, I wouldn't be surprised.
Wow.
But if they made the playoffs, I also wouldn't be surprised. I think I have them at 19, which might be a little high for some people. But I think I'm assuming that Karl Anthony Towns makes a jump this year. I just have a gut feeling that he's going to go from someone who doesn't know how to win, like how he's been his whole career. Like last year, the Timberwolves went on like a 2-month stretch where they did not win a game when Karl Anthony Towns was playing. I'm not big on him. I've always been not a big fan of him. I don't think he's as good as people say he is, especially because of his woes on defense, and he's still not the most efficient offensive player. But I think when you put D'Angelo Russell beside him, you hope for the development of Anthony Edwards or Jarrett Culver, at least one of the two.
Please.
And if not, Malik Beasley, because I think Malik Beasley right now is better than any of those guys.
I agree.
So you got to hope one of them is a reliable third option. I think if it's Beasley, I think with Beasley as a third option, with D'Lo and Cat, I think this is a team that competes. I think they could be in a position where they're looking to play in the play-in spot to get in the playoffs. But again, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they were the worst team in the league. If D'Lo and Cat don't mix, and if Cat doesn't improve at all, then this team is going to be probably the worst defensive team, and their offense might stagnate a little bit, and they'll be bottom of the West because of how competitive the West is. So this could go either way.
Yeah, real quick, Michael, I would just like to say thank you again. Message me on Facebook. That's probably the easiest place to find me. Send me a Facebook message and we can talk probably directly after the show. Yeah. I mean, we'd love to get more guests on here. So if any of you guys, even friends that we went to high school with or college with, if anyone wants to, we're always looking for a guest star to bring on the show and just bring their opinions. This is opinions straight. We're literally doing our rankings. Any of these, the Timberwolves could win the NBA Finals next season. This is just our opinion. I mean, they can't, but technically they can. So
if D'Lo comes out and averages 35,
D'Lo's going to win MVP this season, guys. He's a sleeper for MVP, even if they don't make the playoffs. I think D'Lo in the next couple of years is going to assert himself as a top 5-6 point guard in the league. I love D'Angelo Russell. He's my favorite player in the league. But I agree with you. They need to just right now. They need to hope for development of Edwards or Culver. Culver really has not turned out to be what they wanted him to be as of right now. I also think he was a reach at the 5th overall, was 5th or 6th draft pick. Yeah, he was a reach, but because they have D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns, they're going to be an interesting team to go up against. And I think D'Lo is going to have a season where he could probably give any team 30 a night.
I hope so.
And so, yeah. So I moved the Grizzlies. So I had Timberwolves at 21st.
Mm-hmm.
Who did you already say your 21st?
I have not said my 20. So we've gotten through my 21
20.
and my 19.
Okay.
So my 20, the last team in the East I have not making the playoffs, which is the Indiana Pacers.
I have them at 9th in the East as well, but I have them at 18 in power rankings. Okay.
So we have the same spot in the East. I have them a little lower overall.
Yes.
The Pacers are bringing back the same team as last year, which in the East where teams like the Hawks and the Wizards made significant improvements, the Pacers might get pushed out of the playoffs. So that's what I've got right now.
I've got it too.
I wouldn't be surprised if they make it again because if Victor Oladipo returns to like 2017, 2018 form and Malcolm
I don't
Brogdon
think
had
so.
a great season last year, if he keeps it up, Domantas Sabonis plays well again, Miles Turner makes a bit of a jump. I mean, this is definitely a playoff team if all that happens. They'll have Jeremy Lamb coming back from injury, who will be a key piece off the bench. TJ Warren, who knows what he'll do with if he'll show up like he did in the bubble or if he goes back to just.
He was awesome in the bubble.
Yeah, I mean, even if he doesn't go back to that, if he just goes back to averaging 18, 19 points per game like he normally did, which I think a lot of people forgot about, if he makes the jump to be a 20-point per game scorer, which I think he's going to this year, it's hard to say the Pacers aren't going to make the playoffs because this is a good team. Like, they've got all the pieces. Yes. They don't really have any superstars, but they have a lot of really good players. But I just don't think it's going to be enough. Like, I just think the East has gotten that much better, especially the back of the East, where it's not going to be a cakewalk. It's not going to be like, oh, you can have a losing record and get the 6th seed in the East. That's not going to work anymore with how these teams are improving. And I just think the Pacers didn't quite make enough moves to elevate themselves in. What do you think?
Any moves to go about that matter. I don't see any of their young guys. If we're going to say a young guy on their team is like an Aaron Holiday to make a jump to push them over the hump, but like Malcolm Brogdon's still a very, very talented player. One of the most efficient guys in the league and still an underrated passer. He's a point guard like every contending team would like to have. But with the team built around them, the fact that they're just running it back they're hoping probably Sabonis stays an all-star, which I don't think he will. Miles Turner hopefully makes the jump to being a really good starting caliber center. He's a good average kind of guy right now where he can stretch the floor, but he's not really much better than that. And I to put like a Wizards. Oh, you're gonna have to put like a Washington Wizards above them and the Atlanta Hawks just because of the moves they made. Russell Westbrook. We'll talk about this later. Russell Westbrook makes the Knicks, in my opinion, possibly better than the Indiana Pacers. Like he just brings that much to the fore, and so the Pacers not making any moves, keeping their 5 average starting 5, the most average. They're the 16th team in the league. Like they're the 15th. They're like the most average team to me. Like. They could either be the playoff team or they could be out of the playoffs. But they're not going to be higher than a 7 or lower than like a 10. So that's how I have them.
Right? No, I agree completely. And I was just going to say I don't like Miles Turner's development next to Sabonis. I don't think that's a good fit. I haven't been big on that since they started playing together, and I just don't think that Turner operates well with another guy who's dominant in the low post like Sabonis.
Yeah, so I put the Pacers like a couple spots ahead of a couple Western Conference teams that are still developing their players and a team that I just think is going to fall off this season. But the Pacers are still going to be that middle of the pack team, and they're not really going to be better. I was hoping the Pacers took a Oklahoma City Thunder kind of way and just blew it up because the Pacers they don't have any future assets right now, like anything extra. They're not championship contenders unless TJ Warren can straight up actually average 30 for them. And Miles, I agree with you on the Miles Turner Sabonis fit. I think Turner would have been such a great fit for the Boston Celtics, and they never pulled off that deal. So I think the Pacers are going to be 9th in the East. Other teams just made better moves.
So you said you've got them below a Western Conference team that you think is gonna.
I have them above a Western Conference team.
Oh yeah, you have them above a Western Conference team that you think is gonna kind of blow it up. I'm thinking what you're thinking. That's the team that I've got next.
Who?
Is that the Houston Rockets?
It is not.
Oh, it's not. Okay, well, go ahead then.
I have the Rockets pretty high as of right now. So
okay.
Let's wait on the Rockets. I have. Okay. I'm gonna get killed for this, but I know you're not gonna kill me, but other people will kill me for this. This is a team that they're not gonna blow it up, but they're just gonna get hit in the face, and especially one player is gonna get hit with. He's been overhyped. He is the Portland Trailblazers, man. I will be the first person to tell you, Damian Lillard is not a better point guard than Steph Curry and never will be. I hope that this is the year. I'm sorry to Trailblazers fans. I hope this is the year that you guys get like hit with. You're not a playoff team. Damian Lillard cannot lead that team to a playoffs. Listen, when I was doing our rankings, the Trailblazers could be 11th in the West or like 6th. They have the potential to be a viable playoff team. They made signings like the Robert Covington. I thought was a very good. It's kind of what they needed with 3-and-D. Another 3-and-D, or not really 3, but like good defensive wing is Derrick Jones Jr. that they signed. But the Trailblazers, I just don't. I'm not a fan. I'm not high on them. I don't like them at all. Damian Lillard's overhyped to me. He is a top 3 point guard in the NBA, but he's not Stephen Curry. And I like the other Western Conference teams better than them. So I have them at 20. It might sound crazy to put Damian Lillard at 20, but I have the Trailblazers at 20 on my power rankings.
You can attest to this for me that
yes.
I'm not the biggest Damian Lillard fan. You know that.
Yes.
I also agree. I think he's incredibly overhyped. I don't think he brings the winning men. I think he's, at least his playoff performances are overhyped. He's never been good in the playoffs, so that's total myth. Like, I think that's the biggest myth in the NBA right now. That
carried by CJ.
Yeah, he's not. Damian Lillard's not a good playoff performer. CJ is always the one who's doing it in the playoffs. I mean, Lillard got torched by Drew Holiday in 2018, in 2017, killed by Steph Curry in 2018, and then this past year he completely underperformed against the Lakers, who obviously they were the reigning champ. They were the champions, but still, I think that's the biggest myth. I think one good shot has carried his playoff legacy.
Yeah.
So that said, I have the Trailblazers at 15 and 8 in the West. I think they're going to make the playoffs, and this is my first team that we were just talking about. I think he's going to make the playoffs, and I just think that's because this is the best team Dame has ever had.
Yes,
I think with CJ, with a healthy Nurkic, and with the addition of wings Covington and Derrick Jones, I think with the development of Gary Trent Jr., with the veteran leadership of Carmelo, this is the most well put together team Dame has ever had. And I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to do about what they did this past year. I just think the improving West is going to keep them around the 8 seed. But this is a good Trailblazers team, and I've got high hopes for them. Like, I think this is a playoff team. Like I said, Dame's got enough around him. I don't think that they're gonna miss out this year.
Yeah, and so there's our Trailblazers. We have them at very different parts, but I despise the Trailblazers. I apologize. I love CJ McCollum. I love Melo. I actually do love Nurkic. It's just the team in general. Just like, I think the team is always overhyped, and people look at them as a top 4 team in the West when they're never a top 4. Like, they get the hype of a Clippers, but they don't ever like perform that way. And so I'm like, I just don't see Damian Lillard as the player who can carry their team, especially with actually, I'm going to have them at 10th in the West because I'm going to put the Grizzlies behind them. And this is also saying that the team that you have pretty low, the Houston Rockets, don't keep James Harden. And depending on what they get back for James Harden, because the Rockets, I will go to the Rockets because that's the team that you have.
Where do you have the Rockets?
What'd you say?
Where do you have the Rockets?
I have the Rockets at 12. If Harden stays.
So this is my next.
I have in big parentheses.
This is my next team in order. I got the Rockets at 18, so right in line with pretty much everything. 10th in the West, and that's because James Harden will not be a Rocket by the trade deadline.
I made the prediction thing. Yeah.
Come March, James Harden has a 0% chance of being on the Houston Rockets. I would honestly be surprised if he plays a game for them this year. I don't think he's going to stay. Just the way everything's been going on, the level of tension between him and the organization, just the way he hasn't been showing up, he wants out of there. And I don't blame him for wanting out of there because I mean, he's trying to win a championship at the late stages of his career. He's been unsuccessful so far. So it makes sense for him to get out of there. But just the disarray between him and the organization right now, I think the Rockets have handled this offseason very, very poorly. I like the John Wall trade, but this isn't a team that should be focused on contending, because even with Harden and John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins and Christian Wood and all of those pieces, they're a playoff team. Yeah, if Harden plays, they're a playoff team, but they're not a championship team. No, not a chance. So I don't think Harden's going to play a game for the Rockets this year. I think he's going to be traded to another team that we'll talk about later. But yeah, without Harden, the Rockets are a bottom 4 team in the West. They'd be a little lower than I have them right now. The only reason I have them as high as 18 is just because, just in case Harden does play, they're a playoff team. I don't think he's
that's what I said. I had in parentheses, the only other parentheses I put next to this entire list was Rockets at 12. 6, I have them 6 in the West if Harden stays. If Harden gets traded, also this is saying that they don't get a Ben Simmons back or something like that, because they get Ben Simmons back, I still see them as a playoff team. I put them probably at 20, and I put the Trailblazers ahead of them, so that makes the Rockets like 11th, 12th in the West, fighting with the Timberwolves for that spot. But yeah, the Rockets. I do disagree with you on the fact that I was a big fan of their offseason moves. I think if you're going to do anything to keep Harden around, they brought in a couple guys who need to prove themselves. I don't think that I talked about this last night a little bit. The difference to me of a Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook to John Wall is John Wall hasn't played a game in 2 years, and I don't think he really cares about how he looks on the court anymore. I think he just wants to prove to people that at the old age he can come back from injury and be a part of a winning team. I don't see him being a guy who's going to care so much about. Russell Westbrook straight up said when he requested a trade, I want to go back to my OKC days. I want to be the guy on my team. I don't see John Wall wanting to take the ball away from Harden and like wanting to take losses. I see John Wall as a player who wants to prove himself and win. And I see Boogie the same way, who's coming off injuries. He's just going to want to be a part of the center on a winning team. I don't know if he's going to start or Christian Wood's going to start, or they're going to start both of them. But I liked the fit. I do completely agree with that. They should have blown it up. If they were going to do anything to stay in playoff contention, not championship contention, obviously with the Lakers and Clippers and Nuggets, but for playoff contention, I like the moves they made. But if Harden gets traded, there's no way that this team's not a bottom 4 team in the West.
Yeah, I think I disagree with you about this is I don't think they fixed the problem from last year with their offseason moves. John Wall is also a ball dominant player. Even no matter what you say about like how he wants to like fix it, he's a ball dominant player. He's a point guard. He needs to have the ball in his hands, which doesn't fix last year's problem, because the problem last year was Harden wanted to have the ball in his hands and Westbrook did. And so that's not changing. And Wall just isn't as good as Westbrook straight up to overcome that. Yeah. So I just don't see any way that this year's Rockets team is better than last year's Rockets team.
I got you. I'm just hoping John Wall can come back. I'm a big John Wall fan. I hope he can come back and play really good minutes for the Rockets. That probably could only happen if Harden goes, but Rockets could go playoff team or bottom 4 team in the West, and it's just all depends on the beard right now. And so,
what are we up to? Because I've got my 18 through 30 all done, and then my 15, which is the Trailblazers.
I have one more team to talk about in my 18 through 20. Okay. And that's my I have my 19th, and I would have them at 10th in the West.
Okay.
Is the New Orleans Pelicans.
Big difference.
Wow.
I got them at 14, 7th in the West.
Wow. So you have them as a playoff team. I don't. Now, I'm also going to say that I had the Grizzlies and Rockets, and if the Grizzlies and Rockets don't perform like I have them in my rankings, the Pelicans will move into that 8 spot. So I actually have the Pacers above the Pelicans, so that might be a little differentiated, but as long as I'll move the Grizzlies down, actually, because if Triple J is not playing, there's no way they're making the playoffs. But I'll say the Pelicans have 8 seed, 7 seed potential. But the reason I have the Pelicans so, I guess, low, but also I have them kind of high because of the fact that they're above like the Trailblazers. And so I'll let you take the floor with the Pelicans right now, because you have them a little higher than me.
I think the Pelicans make the playoffs this year. This is a young team that is going to make the jump. One of the 2 young teams that I have overall making a big jump this year. The other one in the Eastern Conference I will talk about later. I'm just assuming you can guess that team now. The Pelicans, Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, bringing in Steven Adams, develop Lonzo Ball, bringing in Eric Bledsoe, who I think is a very underrated player still. Develop Nickeil Alexander-Walker, develop Jackson Hayes. There's a lot to like about this Pelicans team, and I think
Nickeil Alexander-Walker, a name that I think people need to know because he's been shooting the ball extremely well in the preseason. I just like his fit, but continue.
Exactly. I don't know. This might be more of a gut feeling than anything statistically based. I think Zion and Brandon Ingram are both going to be healthy. I think they're both going to play most of the season.
Hope so.
And I think Zion's going to make the jump that everyone thinks he's going to. It's hard for me to say this at this point, but with the amount of internet disrespect that Zion's been getting, is it possible that Zion has become underrated? Like, is that possible? Because I think so. I think he's been getting so much disrespect online. Like, Zion still is going to be, when he plays, a 22 point per game scorer at the worst. At the absolute worst, he's going to be a 22 point per game scorer.
I agree.
If he plays the whole season and he's healthy, I think he's going to be a 25 point per game guy. I think Brandon Ingram's also going to be a 25 point per game guy again, like he was last season. I mean, if you've got your two stars averaging that much together, and I know Ingram improved a lot defensively last season. Zion's still a great rebounder. They're adding a great center in Steven Adams, who will really help put everything together. Mm-hmm. I think this is a playoff team. They have the star talent. They have the role players. They have the youth. They got a good coach now. Like I love the Pelicans this year. I'll take them over a lot of the other bubble teams in the West.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a team competing for the 8 seed. If the Rockets fall off, as I said, if the Rockets and Grizzlies fall off, like we've discussed, I've got them at 8 seed in the West. I could see if I'm a top tier Western Conference team, I don't want to go against the Pelicans first round. That team could surprise you, and I don't want to have to guard Brandon Ingram and then have Lonzo throwing full court alleys to Zion every other second. Because I'll say this right now, I don't think Zion would be the player that he is without a Lonzo Ball point guard. I'll stand by that. I think Lonzo's one of the best passers and defenders at his position. And I think Zion needs a good passer to play point guard. Brandon Ingram's their ISO guy when everyone else is tired and Brandon Ingram can just go to work. Like he'll go to work for you guys. We showed that last year. Pelicans are a fun team though. I think I completely agree with you. I don't think Zion's underrated because he still just gets all the hype in the world. But he's going to come out and average 24 a game and people are going to be like, "Oh, he's legit." And he is. As long as he can stay healthy, he's a legit star in this league.
Okay. What I meant by saying underrated is I think if you said online or just anywhere that you would rather have Zion Williamson than Ja Morant right now, I think that is more of a hot take than saying you'd rather have Ja than Zion.
That's true.
I feel like people have been disrespecting Zion to the point where they're lowering his value to other players' levels that I think he's better than. I truly think Zion is as good as people are hyping up to be as long as he stays healthy. We saw that. He played 21 games last year, and he averaged over 20 points per game in his first 20 games. Do you know how good he could be?
He's only played 19 games. That's what scares me.
Yeah, well, 19. Then he played 2 more in the bubble too.
Yeah, but at first, yeah. So Pelicans would be fun. Lonzo Ball. Hopefully, Lonzo Ball finally makes the jump that everyone hopes he does. I've always been a Lonzo Ball guy and a Ball brothers kind of guy, and so I have Pelicans at we'll say 18, and you've got them all the way at 14. So there's our 18 through 30.
Yeah, that's all 18 through 30, and then a couple more that we have a bit above that. We talked about my 14 and 15 as well. But I was going to say is keeping with the trend of Western Conference bubble teams. My 17 is my last Western Conference team I don't have making the playoffs. Okay. I have the Trailblazers and the Pelicans ahead of this team. This is your dad's going to disagree with this one. Utah Jazz. I have just missing out this year. Yep. Which might be a bit of a hot take considering they took the Denver Nuggets to 7 games last year, blew a 3-1 lead, and they'll be getting Bogdanovich back this year, which will help them. But like I said, the Trailblazers improved a lot this year, I think, with their offseason moves. I think they improved enough that they'll be better than that they'll jump the Jazz. I think the Pelicans are going to develop enough that they'll jump the Jazz. Mm-hmm. And when the Jazz were 60, 2 teams jumped them. That leaves them to 8. You got a healthy Warriors team. I think they're out of the playoffs. That's all I'm saying. So I don't think they're going to be any worse. I think they're going to be the same team, if not even better. I just think Pelicans and Trailblazers improving, Warriors getting healthy. I think this team – I think they could have a winning record and still miss the playoffs. That's my guess with the Jazz. I think Donovan Mitchell will still have a great season. Rudy Gobert will do what he does. Bogdanovich, again, another guy who quietly averaged over 20 points per game last year. A good offensive team, good pick and roll. Not great defensively. Just I don't think they have enough pieces to get over the hump.
I had the Jazz at 8th in the West, so we have them at a one spot difference when we're coming to standings. But I still will take the Jazz over a team like the Pelicans and the Trailblazers, and that's coming from a guy who made $100 bet hoping the Jazz are bad this season. But Donovan Mitchell is still he's an incredible talent. I mean, we've seen that for however long now. I think Mike Conley's going to have a little bit of a bounce back here and hopefully play his role better. I mean, Mike Conley was a guy who just came to the Jazz. Everyone was excited for him to come, and then he played awful. Joe Ingles is still Joe Ingles. I mean, you have to love him. Bogdanovic coming back, I think, is going to be huge. And so I have them at the 8 seed in the playoffs. I can see them going all the way down to 10, and I can see them going up to like a 6 or 7. But I think that they're going to sneak into the playoffs just because I maybe the Trailblazers will take this spot because I don't like the Trailblazers. But Jazz are in an interesting spot.
Yeah.
You got anything else to say about the Jazz?
About them. That's they're big enough to be a big topic of conversation. I just think other teams are getting better, so they're going to be pushed out.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the West now. I feel like West has been dominant for the past 5-10 minutes.
Well, we got 8 Eastern teams to talk about and 6 Western teams left. So
exactly. So I'll start with my my 8 seed in the West, and I actually 18 in the East. I have them at 17th power rankings overall. The Russell Westbrook-led Washington Wizards, 8th in the East.
Well, I would also like to know. I guess we have the same 8 playoff teams in the East, which is kind of nice because we have discussed teams. But this is actually a bit of a first disagreement in the East between us. I've got the Wizards up at 12, 6 in the East.
Oh wow!
So I'm a little higher on the
East.
Wizards. Okay. So I'll let you go first on this one. Let me hear what you think.
I could see it happening the way that you have it. I think that I truly believe Russell Westbrook's going to elevate Bradley Beal to be an MVP caliber player this season. He averaged 30 last year and didn't make an All-Star game, which is ridiculous. But Russell Westbrook's going to play a Russell Westbrook game. Thank God they made that trade because you have to remember they traded Russell Westbrook for a guy who has not stepped foot on an NBA court in 2 seasons. The Wizards have been contending for a playoff spot the past couple seasons with just Bradley Beal.
Yeah.
With just Bradley Beal in that backcourt. What has it been? Ish Smith? Like, that's been their starting. Yeah, and like Russell Westbrook is going to come onto that team and just make them a automatic playoff team. I'll take them over the Pacers any day. There's also a team in the East that I'll take over them also who made a lot of different moves this offseason. But the Wizards had an 8 seed. I think the 8 seed is their floor. That's how I put it. I see the other teams like I have the Hawks above them. I'll say that right now. But the Wizards, their floor is an 8 seed and they're guaranteed playoff team.
So they were 9 last year, and they added Russell Westbrook. Like, to me, that's better than 8. I got them at 6. Which I don't know. Would that be like your ceiling for them, or do you think they could be even better than that?
I think that they could even be like a 5 or 4 seed if they reach their true potential. I have them at 16 in my overall power rankings. If we're gonna take the Rockets out of it and go off of what Harden not playing, but yeah.
No, I've got them up at 12 just because I think this is a perfectly built regular season team. I see them a lot like the Westbrook, Paul George led Thunder from a couple of years ago. That was about a 5 seed in the West. So I think we're going to get the same level of production this year from Westbrook, and I think Beal will take over that Paul George role. Watch Beal average about 30 points per game this year again. I think Westbrook's going to have a good season. I think that's going to be a tandem that works a lot because Westbrook's a great playmaker, and Beal is always in the right spots, great scorer. And I think the rest of the offense is built well for Westbrook. Thomas Bryant and Davis Bertans both will probably play power forward and center for them.
Really?
Athletic. Well, Thomas Bryant's an athletic big who can stretch the floor. Davis Bertans, pure shooter. I think that's going to work out really well with Westbrook's style of play. This is just a team that I think is really well built for him. But I think I said this in one of the past ones. I think Westbrook's going to average triple-double again this year. And I think he's going to have a great season. And I think the Wizards are going to be 6th in the East. I think they're going to be one of the better teams. I don't think they'll win a playoff series, but I think they'll compete pretty well.
Yeah, no, the Wizards with any team with Russell Westbrook is pretty much a guaranteed playoff team. As we said, you could put them on the Knicks or even the Thunder team right now, and I think they're a playoff team. And so, yeah, the Wizards will be probably that 5 through 8 range.
So you want to talk about my 8 in the East now, which might be a bit of a hot take. My 16 overall. So this is behind teams like the Wizards, Pelicans, and Blazers. Okay. My 16 is the Toronto Raptors.
I have them at 10th in the league and 6th in the East. And when I was doing this list and I put the Raptors at 6th in the East, I thought 6 was like crazy. And the reason for that is I can't believe right now we're betting up against the Raptors team that hasn't made any changes and still has Nick Nurse. Let's hear. You got them at 8. You got them at 8. You got them at a lower seed than me. So let's hear it.
So this could end up looking really stupid, considering I also bet against the Raptors last year, so they'd be the 7th seed, and they ended up being the 2 seed. So you know what? Why not? Why not keep the trend? Because if I bet for them this year, they would suck. So I'll just keep betting against them until they're bad. But I think this is the year Kyle Lowry declines.
Okay.
I don't think we're going to see the Kyle Lowry we've seen in recent years. And while I like Van Vliet, I think they overpaid for him a little bit. He always shows up well in the playoffs, but I'm not sure if he's good enough given the money they gave him. Teams have figured out how to defend Siakam. If you watched the playoffs last year, Siakam couldn't do anything. And that's because he's not good offensively. He really isn't. He has one move, and that's the spin. He's like Jordan Randall. He's like a Beyblade. He can't do anything offensively. If you take away the spin move, you saw the Celtics did that against him. Siakam was useless. He was like the 3rd best player on the Raptors alone. If other teams watch that and if Siakam doesn't develop at all, I think Lowry's going to decline a little bit. I like Van Vliet. Like I said, I like Van Vliet, good player. Not really one of the key pieces. I just think teams are getting better. I think the Celtics young team's getting better. Nets healthy, better.
Miami
are improving. Miami championship team. I like the Sixers. I like the Sixers more than them this year. I think I like the Hawks more. I like the Wizards, the Westbrook Wizards more. I like the Hawks more, who we'll talk about shortly. I just think there's a lot of teams that are better than the Raptors, just talent-wise. I know Nick Nurse is coaching and the organization's very good, so they'll probably overperform in the regular season, which is fine. Even if they end up like a 4 or 5 in the East, I won't consider myself stupid for having them at 8, just because I think they'll overperform in the regular season because they have the chemistry. Especially with I like Norman Powell and OG Anunoby too. I think both will improve, but this is not a team I think will win a playoff series this year. I really don't.
Yeah, the East has become stacked. I mean, with the Wizards making a Russell Westbrook type move, I agree with you. I think this will be the year Kyle Lowry declines a little bit, and Fred VanVleet will I think he'll take that point guard spot indefinitely for the rest of the 4 years that he's on that contract. I felt crazy putting the Raptors at 6 in the East, and you put them at 8. So I guess maybe I'm not that far off. But
16,
the Raptors could be the 2nd seed.
Yeah,
in the East. But I don't see them winning a playoffs. I see them getting beat by a Wizards or a Hawks. I'll say it right now. I think those teams are just getting that much better. And so, while you've got the Raptors at 8, I've got the Wizards at 8. We kind of mix those two teams up a little bit. I think 5 through 8 in the East are so interchangeable right now. Because at 7,
we might as well talk about another one.
At 7, I have at 7th in the East, I have the Atlanta Hawks.
I do as well. I have them at 13th overall, which is actually now that we got the Hawks going, that's covered my 12 through 30. Because
I have them at 14.
I have Hawks at 13. So, what do you got about them? Let's hear it.
Trae Young, he gets so much slander for his defense, and yes, as he should. I will say I'll be the first person to tell you that. But Trae Young is a 30 to 35 points per game scorer this season. But the signing of is it Bogdanovic or which one is it? It's
they have Bogdan now. Yeah,
Bogdan. Yeah, I was trying to remember how to say it. Oh, yeah, sorry. with the signing, the 4-year, $72 million signing of Bogdanovic, Danilo Gallinari, they signed. John Collins is an underrated power forward who averaged 20 and 10 last season, and no one knew about it. They never played with Clint Capella yet, who's a great center for Trae Young to play alongside. They signed, arguably, in my opinion, one of the most underrated and best signings in free agency in Rajon Rondo being that backup point guard. You cannot have a better mentor for a Trae Young than Rajon Rondo. The Atlanta Hawks are not going to be a team that like the Celtics or Nets want to play in the first round. That's my take on it. I still have the Hawks worse than the Raptors because I think the Hawks are new and I could see them overtake them in a year, but the Raptors still have that core, so that's why I put them above the Hawks. But I'm going to love watching the Hawks play this season.
Yeah. So I've got the Hawks above the Raptors. I have them just below the Wizards, though. And I was talking to our buddy Will yesterday about the Hawks because he wasn't high on them. He was asking me why I thought that I liked the Hawks this year. And I just think they have everything, right? I think they've got the superstar. Trae Young's going to be a superstar. Like I've been pretty critical of Trae Young. You know that I've never been the biggest Trae Young guy. Offensively, superstar, and he has the chance to develop defensively. So I'm not counting that out yet. Curry was also atrocious defensively his first couple seasons in the league, and then I know a lot of people say Curry's still not good defensively. He's improved a lot since his early years. Bogdan, I think that's a great addition, pure shooter.
Gallo's going to be coming off the bench for probably a Hunter or Reddish.
I mean, right now, if you put Hunter at starting small forward, let him develop, he's a great defensive, pretty good scorer too. That means you're bringing Kevin Huerter and Danilo Gallinari and Onyeka Okongwu off the bench.
And Chris Dunn and Rajon Rondo.
Exactly. Like that bench unit alone is spectacular. I mean, they've got superstars. They've got great defensive players. I know if you take out Trae Young's defense, you've still got Clint Capella, one of the best defensive centers in the league. John Collins is a pretty good defender. DeAndre Hunter, great wing defender.
Chris Dunn is like the best, one of the top-notch guard defenders in the league.
They've got the veteran leadership in Rondo. They've got the shooters, Bogdanovic and Huerter.
Trae Young.
This Trae Young, right? I mean, this is a team that has all the pieces they need. Like if they're even able to put it together a little bit, they'll be in the playoffs. I mean, my one of my bold predictions, I think the Hawks, I think this is like the floor for them. I think if they're truly live up to their potential, they're a top 4 team in the East.
Wow.
Like this is the team that's going to make the biggest jump this year, in my opinion.
Without doubt. So in the East, I'm glad that we have the same 8 through 1 in the East, or the same like top 8 teams in the East, because I mean the Raptors, although they stayed the same, it looks like I feel like there's a trend with us, and we keep underlying the teams that stayed very similar to what they were like last year, and we're putting the other teams above them. Yeah. Because the other teams are finally making moves. I mean, it's awesome to see the Wizards and Hawks taking that next step to be a playoff team. Like we haven't seen this from anyone in a while. So,
and they're not just making moves. Like the Pistons made moves, but they're making moves. They're making moves that actually address their team needs, which you don't like. I feel like teams are improving this rate at this offseason more than any other offseason in recent memory. Yeah, like they're actually addressing team needs. They're improving in the areas they need to improve instead of just signing players for the hell of it.
Yes.
So I'm big on the Hawks.
Yeah,
so, we've got top 11. We've got my top 11 left now. Is there any?
I have. Let me think. We talked about the Jazz, correct?
Yeah.
I have one more team outside of my top. So I'm gonna guess what your 11 is, and that's the Golden State Warriors.
That's correct.
Okay, I have them at 13. Would be 12 if the Rockets keep Harden, or get rid of Harden. So we'll talk about the Warriors.
We have the same top 10 then.
No, because I have the Raptors at 10.
Oh, you had the Raptors. Okay, never mind.
But
okay.
I think your 10 is my 11. So we'll talk about that though.
So the Warriors, I have them 6 in the West, 11 overall,
7th in the West, 12th overall.
It's heartbreaking.
I know, dude. I know.
It's heartbreaking that Klay Thompson isn't playing this season. Because if Klay Thompson was playing this season, they're in my top 5.
You have to put them in top 5. You have to put them right next to the Clippers if Klay Thompson's playing. And I have to. I'm a Warriors fan. I had to watch the preseason games and everything.
Oh boy,
Kelly Oubre is the best man that we could have replaced Klay Thompson with.
Yeah.
If we're talking about the best available player, because obviously if we could have gotten a Paul George or a James Harden, sure. The best available guy was Kelly Oubre. And he brings a slashing play. He brings just energy all the time. And I'm a big Kelly Oubre fan. I think Kelly Oubre should run our shooting guard position. Wiggins at the 3. Wiggins does not need to be even a third option on the team. I think Wiseman could even take that third option on the team. Wiggins will probably be the second option on the team, but he's going to be in a role on this team where he doesn't even have to be. So that's why I am high on Wiggins on this team. I think Draymond's going to be Draymond Green. He's going to come out and average 9, 7, and 6, and people are going to be like, oh, he's so overrated. And then the playoffs will come and he'll average like 15. If Wiseman can live up to the hype and a number 2 overall pick and be the center that people think that he can be next to Curry, the Warriors are not going to be a team the Clippers want to see in the first round. Let me put that out there. No one's going to want to see MVP-led Steph Curry, because I think that's my MVP prediction is Steph and Curry. No one's going to want to see Steph Curry in the first round. I mean, if as long as this injury isn't as severe as people as we hope it's not, the Warriors are going to be a fun team to watch. And I love the Warriors, so I'm hoping that they can do better than 7th in the West. I have them at 7, Jazz at 8. But yeah, that's what I have to say about the Warriors.
If all goes right for the Warriors, they could be a top 4 team in the West. Top 3.
Yes. Yep.
Like I think they have if Curry returns to MVP level, which I have no doubt that he's going to. I don't think he's going to be the MVP, but I think he's going to be in conversation.
Mm-hmm.
If he returns, if Kelly Oubre makes a couple point per game jump and becomes a 20 point per game scorer on the wing, good shooter, good offensive player. Andrew Wiggins again. I mean, offense isn't an issue. Like they have the offense.
He's been a 20 points per game scorer his whole entire career, and everyone undermined that because he didn't live up to the hype. He's an incredible scorer. I don't understand this hate against Andrew Wiggins. Maybe that's
just Draymond. They have Wiseman, who hopefully will be a great center. They have one of the best coaches in the league. Steve Kerr, I think, is undoubtedly one of the best coaches in the league. Like this, there's so many things going right for the Warriors this year. Like, even without Klay, they're still going to be really, really freaking good. Like, this is still going to be a really good team. And I'll be very disappointed if they're not contenders in the West. I think they not to win the championship per se. I don't think they're going to be that good. But I think they'll compete to win a playoff series. I think they'll compete to make the second round. Like, this is a team that I think they could steal games from a couple teams in the first round. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm high on the Warriors. I always will be. It sucks when I found out that Klay Thompson injury. That broke my heart. I mean, you never want to see Klay Thompson, a player who's – listen, the Warriors were hated for so many years, and Klay Thompson was loved during those years. I mean, everyone hated Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, and then you mentioned Klay Thompson, everyone was like, oh, no, I like that guy. Like, you can't hate Klay Thompson, and so seeing him go down with 2 straight severe injuries, I mean, he's not going to be – I think his shooting won't. I don't think his shooting is going to ever go down. He's a top 3 shooter of all time. He's the second best shooter of all time. Let me put that out there. But his defense will probably take a step down because of his injuries. But Kelly Oubre is a player that the Warriors wanted and they got, and I'm happy with the Kelly Oubre signing. I was happy with the Wiseman draft. I didn't see another route that we could have gone. Maybe people could have said we should have taken LaMelo, but if the Warriors are still trying to use Curry's technically at the ending his prime-ish years, but he's still Stephen Curry. He's the top 2 point guard of all time. You can't say that Curry can't lead that team to playoffs at least.
Agreed.
So
you know more Warriors than I do. I trust your judgment on them. You got them 13. I got them 11. I think that's fair.
Yeah, and now moving in to our top 10. This is where it's probably going to get really interesting. You know, if
you got one more team you haven't talked about, and that's outside your top 10.
Oh, I'm saying your top 10.
Oh, okay. Well,
because I've got my 10 and 11 can go either way. Also, my list was kind of a little messed up because of the fact that I didn't know about Triple J, and James Harden is messing not only my list but the entire NBA up right now. So let's move into your top 10. I'll let you take the 4 for your number 10 because I think your 10 is my 11.
Right there.
Oh, really?
Right there. Philadelphia 76ers.
I have the 76ers at my 9th spot.
9th spot. Okay, that's
actually.
fair. That's
So
fair. I've got us at 10.
You know,
5th in the East.
I'll take a step back. Let's go. Let's hear
it. We're better than last year. Like and the fact that I still have us back at 5 shows how much better the East has gotten, because if we had this team last year, I probably would have put us 2 or 3 in the East. So I don't know. It's tough. It's tough because there's the hopeful part of me that thinks if everything goes right, we should be a top 3 team in the East. But there's also part of me like if everything goes like it did last year, we won't win a playoff series.
Yeah.
So I think we've improved though. This is a better team than last year, right? We've got
Seth Curry
addressing team needs. We don't need defense. I don't know what the hell Elton Brand was thinking last year. Like, we have our 2 stars are both defensive like juggernauts. Like Embiid's one of the best defensive centers in the league, and Simmons is one of the best defensive guards in the league. So you don't need to surround them with more defense, which obviously, thankfully, Daryl Morey realized, and he surrounded them with exactly what they need. Neither of them are very good shooters. Surround them with shooters. Seth Curry, Tyrese Maxey, Danny Green, among others. Like, this is exactly what we needed. Like, it makes me so happy to see us adjusting team needs. I think Matisse Thybulle is going to make a big jump. I hope he starts this year at small forward, although I can see him coming off the bench. Isaiah Joe, that's someone that probably won't make any impact this year, but he's also a shooter that we drafted in the 2nd round. I'm really hoping he makes the final roster because I think he's so underrated. So I'm crossing my fingers for that one. But Tobias Harris will move back to the 4 slot, which I really like. I like a bit better as him as a power forward than small forward, just because he's a good mid-range guy. He can stretch the floor at the 4 spot and give Embiid more space to work down low. Doc Rivers at the coach this year, obviously a huge upgrade over Brett Brown. I know a lot of the Sixers fans weren't keen on him at first.
Anyone's an upgrade over Brett Brown.
Can't get worse, right? I mean, unless you hire Jim Boylan, it can't get worse. Everything's going right. So I got us to the 5. I'm praying I'll be happy if we win 1 playoff series this year.
I also have them at 5th in the East, and I have them at 9th in my power rankings. The one thing you hit really on the new shooting and everything that they brought in. I'll say this right now. I think Tobias Harris getting moved to the 4 and playing under Doc Rivers is going to be huge in him living up to or trying to live up to his contract. I don't think with Brett Brown, he's never going to live up to his contract. Let's be honest. But Tobias Harris, his best year or his best half a season was when he was with the Clippers under Doc Rivers playing the power forward position. Yeah. That's why I will give hope to start the season that Tobias Harris is going to be an incredible 4 for them. And hopefully they probably will do Danny Green and Seth Curry at the 2 and 3 for their wings. Danny Green is still such an underrated defender. Matisse Thybulle is an underrated defender. Seth Curry is, if you're going to ask for a shooter, he's the best field goal percent, 3-point percentage shooter in NBA history. Put him next to Ben Simmons. It's a great fit. I have the Sixers at 5th in the East. With the team that I have 4th in the East, I don't see them getting past the first round, but they're making improvements that they need to do to hopefully win a playoff series.
Yeah, you mentioned starting Curry and Green. Right now, I think I would lean more towards starting Green at the shooting guard and Matisse the small forward, and bring Curry off the bench, which has been more of his natural role throughout his career. I know he came off the bench with Dallas last year.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a better fit. But I wouldn't argue with starting Curry over Danny Green at least. I personally think Thybulle should start, though. I think if you're going to try to develop him, he's already one of the best defensive players in the league. And the guard, and I think if you can develop his offensive game and his shooting a little bit more, he'll be a really important 3rd or 4th option for us.
Yeah, I've got Sixers at 5th in the East. The top 6, actually no, the top 8 in the East is all quite teams that we could see making weird pushes. I mean, I don't think anyone expected, except for Zach. I didn't think anyone expected the 4 seed Heat to go all the way to the finals.
I called it.
But that happened, and next thing you know, a 5 seed Sixers could make that push this year, hopefully for you. So,
and the Heat were the 5 seed last year. The Pacers jumped them.
Oh, you're right, they did. And now we have the Pacers out of the playoffs, and the Heat went to the finals. So kind of funny how. And regular season really doesn't mean anything. It just means who's going to be in the postseason. And once it gets to the postseason, any team can make that jump.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna move on to my 11th to finish off. I have a Western Conference team at 11, and I'm guessing this probably be your 9. I bet $100 on this team, and it's all because of Chris Paul.
I have them 8.
You have them 8. I have the Phoenix Suns at 11. I actually put them below the Raptors, but I have them at 5th in the West. Do you have them at
5th in the West, 8 overall?
Okay. So, man, if we're talking Phoenix, you're telling me that a team led by Chris Paul, better than the Oklahoma City Thunder team last year by a mile to me. And they're not good, and people are saying the Jazz are going to be better. I think people forget the Oklahoma City Thunder were the 4 seed last year and 1 game away from playing that LA team. They were 1 possession away from playing the Los Angeles Lakers last year. And then James Harden had the play of his year and jumped over a ball. The Suns are a team to be reckoned with this year, and Devin Booker his game's only going to get better. I mean, Devin Booker next to Chris Paul, that is one of the deadliest backcourts. I don't care how old Chris Paul is. He could be 45, and Chris Paul is still going to find a way to win games. Devin Booker next to him, arguably a top 3 scorer in the NBA. I mean, this team is built for success. DeAndre Ayton is a 15-10 guy. I will say that DeAndre Ayton will be a top 5 center in the next couple of years. Phoenix Suns are going to be so fun.
Chris Paul, right? Devin Booker, huge improvement over Shea. I love Shea. Devin Booker's a huge improvement.
Yes.
Ayton, improvement over Steven Adams, if you ask me.
Yes.
Cam
Mikal
Johnson. Bridges. They signed someone. They signed one more guy.
Jay Crowder.
Jay Crowder, right. I think those 3 at the forward spots all of them, I think any of them are better than Gallinari.
Yes.
So I mean, this Suns team, I think, is just I'm huge on them. I have them 8 overall, 8th best team in the league. Devin Booker, I've said this many times before, and I'll say it again, will be top 3 in MVP voting. I think this. My expectations for this team are through the roof, through the whole roof. Chris Paul and Devin Booker will be the best backcourt in the league. No, I don't even think it's gonna be close. This backcourt is gonna be ridiculous, and they have this forwards and Bridges, good shooter, good slasher. Cam Johnson, great shooter. Jay Crowder, I think, is one of the best glue guys in the league. He showed how important he was for the Heat. I mean, with when Bam and Goran went down in the playoffs, I think Crowder was their second best player after Jimmy Butler.
Yeah. When Bam went down,
they'll have Ayton playing full. Hopefully, play the full season this year as long as he's not doing drugs again.
Hopefully.
I mean, I love this team. My expectations couldn't be higher. I think this is gonna be one of the best teams in the league. Chris Paul, hopefully he keeps it going. People forget Chris Paul was the leader in clutch scoring and leader in clutch field goal percentage last year. Devin Booker was looking a lot more clutch by the bubble last year. This is a team that will be able to finish games. I don't know. I'm huge on the Suns this year. I think they have all the pieces they need to be one of the best teams in the West and to win a series, maybe a couple of series.
Yeah, Chris Paul is also only going to elevate DeAndre Ayton's game. I mean, DeAndre Ayton, he right now he's a on the edge top 10 center in the NBA. I could see him making a Bam Adebayo kind of jump and just becoming a dominant center in this league.
Yeah.
Especially if you want anyone to help develop your young guys and make the playoffs. They went 8-0 in the bubble without Chris Paul.
Yeah.
With Ricky Rubio playing, and Ricky Rubio's nowhere near Chris Paul. So the Phoenix Suns are going to be they're a top 10 team in the league with not even a question. Even though I actually put them at 11. They're just awesome. I have them at 5th in the West. That just, I think having them at 5th in the West just shows how competitive the conference is. Because if in literally last year you put Chris Paul on that team, and I could see them at 3rd or 2nd in the West. But the Suns are going to be fun. So you have them. So we've gone over your 8 and 9.
We've got my
8 and 10, not 9.
We've got my top 7 and my 9.
Okay, let's hear your 9.
My 9 is the defending Eastern Conference champions, the Miami Heat.
I have them as 7.
Back at 9. So this might come as a surprise to a lot of people. I was big on the Heat last year. Like I said, before the playoffs even started, I told Hunter I thought they were gonna win the East. And I was right about that.
So I just want to stretch real quick and just show off the.
If if the Heat return the same team as last year, I think they're the 9 seed. I think they're the 9 overall. I think they're the 4 seed in the East. I think they're a good team. I think they'll improve in the playoffs, but I don't think they'll win the East again.
Okay.
Now,
that being said,
happen is I think they're gonna get James Harden
for Tyler Hero.
And if they get James Harden, the Heat go from 9 to my top 3.
Yeah,
top 3 with with the 2 teams that I have in my top 2, which we'll talk about later. Yeah. Right now, without James Harden, the Heat are still contenders in the East. I mean, Jimmy Butler is a dog. To me, undisputed top 10 player in the league right now. Like the fact that people still don't think he's top 10 just amazes me because of what he did this offseason, this past postseason. Almost willing the Heat past the Lakers. I know a lot of people. I think I had this discussion with my buddy Zach Goldman on our radio show about if Jimmy Butler and LeBron swapped teams in the finals last year, what would the result be? And I said I think Jimmy Butler would have still won it with the Lakers. Would have won it with the Lakers still. I don't. I think that's how good Jimmy Butler was. Jimmy Butler to me was the best player in that finals. I think he was better than the Lakers. I think he was incredible. He really was. Like he outperformed every expectation for himself. I mean, he was near averaging a 30-point triple-double. He was insane. Like he team on his back. He's got Dragic back. He's got Duncan back. He's got Bam back. He's got everything back other than Jay Crowder, who I think was a pretty key role player, but also very fillable. You're hoping Hero improves. I was never big on Kendrick Nunn.
No, but he's for a regular season backup point guard. He's a good player.
Yeah, he's fine. He's serviceable. But yeah, I mean, they're bringing back pretty much the same team, so expect them to. I just have a gut feeling that this isn't a team that's going to make the finals again. To me, this feels like a one-season wonder kind of thing. I think they'll maybe win one playoff series this year and then get knocked out by a team that's better than them because I think the East has improved a lot. But if they get Harden, watch out.
I have Heat Sixers first round matchup 4-5 seed. I have Heat at 4, Sixers at 5, and so in power rankings I had them at 7. But if they get James Harden, they slip right into that top 3 spot, and it's not even a question. I think if any of these Eastern Conference teams that we're going to talk about for the top 4 seeds, even top 5 if we're going to throw the Sixers in there, obviously, any of those teams get Harden, they're in top 3. They're top 3 in the league, and I don't think that's a question that we can debate. And so, let's see. We've gone through my 7, 9, and 10 now.
So I've got my top 7 left. So you've got what, top 6, and then your number 8.
Yes.
So what's your number 8? Let's hear it.
So at number 8, I have Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks.
I have them at 6.
Okay, so you have them at the edge. Okay, I have the only reason I did this. I have the Heat above them, just because the Heat I think will continue. I think they're just the Miami Heat. They might not be the best playoff team, but when it comes to the postseason, they're bound to make playoff runs. But I have the Mavericks at 8. I have them at 4th in the West. What do you have them at?
4th in the West as well. I have them above the Heat, and then one more Eastern Conference team we've yet to talk about. I have them ahead of.
Okay, but, so if we're gonna talk Dallas Mavericks, I mean Luka Doncic is arguably this season going to take the throne.
MVP.
Yeah, it's between him. To me, it's between him and Curry for MVP. As long as the Warriors can perform like I hope they do. I mean, Luka Doncic is he's going to be the player that every team's going to want for the next 15, 20 seasons. Yes, that's the nice way to put it. I mean, he is. ESPN had him at what, like 2 in their or 4 in rankings this season.
It's a 2, which is atrocious, but
yeah. To me, Luka Doncic will be the second best player at the end of the season in the NBA. He's everything any team would want. You put a Kristaps Porzingis next to him. You put Josh Richardson. I think a very underrated trade for them to get a defensive player. They didn't need the Seth Curry. They needed a Josh Richardson next to Luka. I think Maxi Kleber's a very good stretch four kind of guy that every team would want. They still have Dorian Finney-Smith. Josh Green's looking pretty good in the postseason, the preseason.
Trey Burke had a good season last year too.
And Jalen Brunson's still there. The Mavericks are good. No, the Mavericks could make a Heat run in the West. So let me say it. I think they could do that for the next 20 seasons too. So you're a little higher on the Mavericks than me.
Expect a Michael Jordan level of success from Luka Doncic and the Mavericks in the next 10 years. This may seem really bold right now. I think Luka wins 4 championships in the next 10 years at a minimum.
Okay.
So I don't know.
You heard it here first
this year, but I think we see Luka and the Mavs make my bold prediction. Right, I was talking about this with my dad yesterday. I think Luka and the Mavs make the Western Conference Finals this year.
Wow.
I have them 4 in the West right now. That's how the regular season is going to go around that area. But I think they'll surprise some teams in the playoffs. I think Luka's really going to perform. I think Porzingis will miss the early season due to injury, which might hurt their regular season standings a little bit. But if they can get him healthy for the playoffs, this is not a team I would want to look at. And I think Luka's going to get MVP this year. Expect him to average about a 30-point triple-double.
Wow. Yeah, that's high praise for Luka. But, I mean, that's what you have to do when you watch him play. I mean, he's an absolute stud. I mean, he's the Sacramento Kings.
Like, if you have any basketball IQ at all, you watch Luka play and you realize he's up next.
Yes, he's a generational talent. He's the next upcoming LeBron James.
Bird played today. That's how good he is. Like all the time, I think he'll be at the same level as Larry Bird. Like that's how good he is.
I agree with that. I have them at 8, and I think fourth in the West is their 4. I mean, that's obviously saying Kristaps is going to miss some time. That'll probably cost them a couple of regular season games. Yeah. But when we're talking, I could definitely see this team beating out a Clippers or Nuggets for in a playoff series. So now we're at your top 6?
We got my top 5 and then my 7.
So let's go to your 7.
My 7 is we're going back to the East. My 3 in the East overall, the Boston Celtics.
I have them at 3rd in the East, but I have them at 6. So
okay.
we pretty much have the same exact standings.
We got the same top 5.
Yes.
Yeah. The Celtics at 3 in the East. They didn't improve. So the only reason I have them this high is because I think Tatum and Brown will just continue to get better.
Yep.
I mean, I don't really have much to say about the Celtics at all.
They signed a couple interesting pieces like Thompson.
Yeah. I mean, they made the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and their 2 best players are under 25. That's all you need. Better. That's all that needs to be said. Like, they're only going to get better from here. I don't think they're going to quite make it to the finals. I actually don't even have them in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think being the 3rd best team in the East, I think they'll win a playoff series, but I think they'll just miss out on the Eastern Conference Finals this time around, just because I think other teams are doing better. But no, I think the Celtics are just going to be good again. They're going to be tough to beat. I think Tatum's going to make another jump. Expect Tatum to be a unanimous top 10 player in the league after this season. That's all I got. What do you have to say about that? He's
still growing. Apparently, he just got at 6'10" instead of 6'8". So he's been 19 for 5 years now, and so Jason Tatum's he's another guy that like every team would want. He's a player that he'll be a top 10 player for the next 10 years. Like he'll be an undisputed top 10 player for the next 10 years. So
in the next 10 years, I guarantee we will see multiple Mavericks Celtics finals. Guarantee.
It'll be and they'll be so fun to watch. I don't doubt that for a second. So there goes our 6 through 30, and we actually do have the same top 5. I'm guessing they're not going to be in the same order because my 5 is very controversial. But let's hear your 5 first.
My 5 is who your 2 is. I'll tell you that right now. My 5 is the Denver Nuggets. Tell me that's
I have them at number 2. I have them as 2nd in the West and 2nd in power rankings. I am so high on the Denver Nuggets. I have been a fan of Jamal Murray since the day he came into the league. I mean, my player has won 27 the past 3 NBA 2Ks because I love Jamal Murray so much. Michael Porter Jr. is only going to make a step in the right direction. Yes, they lost Jeremy Grant. I think that was a big loss. And Mason Plumlee, another big loss, which is why I could see them falling down to that 5. I still think they're a better regular season team than the Clippers because somehow the Nuggets are just a good regular season team all the time. And Jokic is undoubtedly the best center in the NBA. And so you got it. You got to put the Denver Nuggets in your top 5, no matter where it is in that ranking.
I'm not quite as high on them as you are. I think the loss of Jeremy Grant hurts than a lot of people are willing to admit. His defense on Kawhi Leonard is the only reason the Nuggets took down the Clippers last year. I think regular season, this will be one of the best teams. I actually wouldn't be surprised if this team finishes the top of the league in the regular season. Yeah. The Nuggets always do really well in the regular season. They're bringing back a lot of the same guys as last year. They'll already have the chemistry, especially with Jokic looking really good this year already. He's looking slim. He's looking athletic. He's looking explosive. They should come out strong, and I think they'll be one of the best regular season teams. If we were doing this by how well I think they'll do in the playoffs, I'd probably put the Mavericks ahead of the Nuggets. I don't think the Nuggets are going to return to the Western Conference Finals this year. I think I have both the Clippers and the Mavericks ahead of them in that department, just because I think Luka will make the jump, and I think the Nuggets didn't. I don't think the Nuggets got any better, and I think the Clippers are going to improve a little bit. So, but I think overall, I mean, Jokic is incredible. Jamal Murray, if he keeps up the level he's playing in the bubble last year, they'll contend, and they'll be able to knock off pretty much any team in the West if they play like they did in the postseason last year. Yeah,
I see Michael Porter Jr. taking the role of the wing defender that Jeremy Grant is. He's so lengthy, and his body is so built to just be. He could be an average defender, like skill wise, and because of how he's a 6'10" small forward, he's gonna a length. I think he's almost got like a 7-foot wingspan almost. He's prone to be able to guard those top-notch guys. And so they also, I think Will Barton's such an underrated player in this league. They still have Gary Harris, who's a very good defending shooting guard. He's a great player next to, obviously, I think we all hope for Drew Holiday to go there, or Bradley Beal to go there, but that never ended up happening. Gary Harris is still their starting shooting guard. I see the Nuggets as a top 2 team in the league the next season. That might just be me, but I do.
That's interesting what you said about Michael Porter Jr. He would need to make a huge jump defensively this year if he's going to fill that
I agree.
Grant role, just because he was the reason they couldn't have him on the court at the end of the games last year is because he was a huge liability defensively. Like, he couldn't guard.
Barely played. He played the bubble. And I think you get a full season of him under his belt, and I think then he'll finally become a better defender.
No, I agree. I don't think he'll be able to fill that role quite as well as you anticipate, at least this season, maybe a couple years perhaps. But that would be a huge defensive jump he'd have to make because he was pretty atrocious last year in that department.
Yeah, but I have Nuggets second in the West right now, and as my number 2 team in the league.
You have them ahead of – we'll stick in the West. You have them ahead of the Clippers? Is that your third
I did have them above the Clippers. I have Clippers at 3. I have Clippers at my 4th in power rankings.
Okay, me too.
And 3rd in the West.
Okay, I've got them 4 power rankings, but 2 in the West.
Fair. So you have so you have Bucks and Nets above them.
Bucks, Nets, Lakers are my top 3. Not but we'll talk about that soon.
Yeah.
The Clippers 4, you got them 4 too.
Yep.
I'll talk about them first, I guess, because this was my championship team last year.
Yeah, that was tough.
That was very tough. Those who knew me in college knew I was very, very, very disappointed the following couple days after the Nuggets took them down. All I wanted last season was Clippers-Lakers. That's all I cared about. That was like my thing. Like, that's all I cared about last season was Clippers versus Lakers, because that's going to be the series of the century. And it never happened, which to this day I'm still pissed about. I still hate the 2020 postseason because we never got the Clippers-Lakers series. To me, 2020 postseason is still probably one of my bottom postseasons of all time, just because we didn't get the series I wanted.
That's fair.
And I don't think we're going to get it this year either, unfortunately. Right now I have Lakers-Clippers as the top 2 teams in the West, but like I said, I think Luka and the Mavericks, I think, are going to overtake the Clippers at some point later in the season.
Yes, I agree.
But look out for Kawhi on revenge mode this year.
And Paul George on revenge mode.
Yeah, people count out Kawhi Leonard so quickly. They act like he's this big playoff choker, like he's not even close to the top 3 player in the league. Like, get the hell out of here. Kawhi Leonard in his entire career has had 1 bad playoff game.
Yeah.
1. It just happened to be the most important game of the season. But I mean, look, LeBron in 2011 had 1 really bad game, and it cost them the series. It cost them the championship. It cost him his legacy. Because of that, LeBron will never be as good as Jordan, in my opinion.
Whoa.
It's a debate for another time.
Yep.
Kawhi has the same thing. I mean, that one Game 7 against the Nuggets killed it. It killed his whole reputation because he was seen as the guy who he was like Mr. Automatic in the playoffs. He'd come up, he'd give you 30 every game. He would always perform. He would always look good. That was his reputation, and that's ruined now. Everyone who talks about Kawhi Leonard now is, oh, he choked, or oh, the Clippers choked. So
Paul
he's going to be
choked.
Paul George choked. I still blame Paul George more than Kawhi. But yeah, Kawhi was in that Game 7. Even me, the biggest Kawhi defender, will admit he was terrible in Game 7. It's only going to get better though. Like I can't see it getting worse. I know they brought back pretty much the same team as last year. They lost Montrezl Harrell and added Serge Ibaka, which I think is an upgrade for them. But yeah, they still don't have a point guard. They're not. They didn't address the needs that they had, which is why I don't think they'll make it better than they did last year. I think Kawhi is going to play his ass off, though. I think Kawhi is going to really have a really good season this year, and I think he's going to prove that he's not some guy who can't play in the playoffs because he is somebody. He can play in the playoffs. We've seen it. He's 2 Finals MVPs, 2 championships. In 2019 with the Raptors, to me, that's still the most impressive playoff performance I have seen from a single player in my lifetime. I'm huge on Kawhi Leonard. I think he's going to have a big season this year. I just don't think the Clippers, as an organization and as a management, gave him the tools he needs to make it to the championship.
Yeah, I don't see Luke Kennard as much of an upgrade for the bench. Yeah. Yes, he is. He's a great shooter and everything, but his defensive liabilities don't help don't help anyone. Patrick Beverley, listen, we love his defense, but he's not a starting point guard in the NBA. He can't. His playmaking is exactly what they don't need. Like he's just not a good playmaker. They didn't address the point guard. I was hoping that they'd go for a Terry Rozier kind of player, and they didn't. Maybe they'll look to make a move in the midseason if something's not working. But I have Clippers at 4, third in the West. I still have them behind Denver because I think Denver's that good. But I could see the Clippers making a nice little playoff push.
Yeah. I mean, I said I don't think it'll happen. I think the Mavericks are gonna be in the Western Conference Finals with the Lakers, but I would still be thrilled to see a Lakers-Clippers series. That's to me especially rooting for. That would make me so happy because I really want to see the LeBron Kawhi go head-to-head, which is something we haven't seen since 2014 or something. It's been so long we've seen Kawhi and LeBron go head-to-head in a playoff series. So I'm really, really hoping we see that.
Yeah, one last thing to wrap up with the Clippers is Serge Ibaka is an upgrade over Montrezl Harrell.
Yes.
For the pure fact that Serge Ibaka can start for your team and bring you shooting and defense. That was probably one of the to replace Montrezl Harrell. I think you upgrade it with Serge Ibaka. Serge Ibaka has the chemistry with Kawhi. They needed that signing to stay in contention because when I saw when they lost out on Montrezl Harrell, I was like, they don't replace him. They're going to be way worse than the Mavericks. But Serge Ibaka, I think, is a very underrated signing by that team. He brings that stretch 4, stretch 5 capability that Montrezl couldn't bring, and so that I just want to say that to wrap up with the Clippers.
I mean, and Harrell's not a huge loss for them. I mean, he only played 15 minutes per game in the playoffs, so it's not like they're losing a key piece of their offense. Like Harrell didn't contribute; he was horrible in the playoffs. And Serge is the type of guy who he always elevates his performance in the playoffs. So I agree with you on that upgrade.
Yeah, so now we get to your top 3 and my 1, 3, and 5.
So let's hear your number 5. Let's hear your number 5.
This might be your number 1.
My number 1? Because I have a feeling it is.
I have the Brooklyn Nets at 5th in my power rankings and 2nd in the East.
I have the Nets at 1st in the East and 1st in my power rankings.
Listen, I completely understand that. Now, I put the Clippers ahead of them because of the fact that they've played together and they're out for a revenge season. I hate Kyrie Irving. The Brooklyn Nets, okay? I will be one to root for Kevin Durant. He came to my Warriors. He helped us get 2 championships, got 2 Finals MVPs, and dipped. I'm very mad at Kevin Durant for leaving. I will say that. I really was hoping he would stay. I really thought he would. But with the whole thing with Draymond Green, it didn't seem like it. The Brooklyn Nets are built for success. They have one of the most clutch point guards in the NBA in Kyrie Irving, and a top 3 point guard, and he's not 3 point guard in the NBA in Kyrie Irving. He's better than Damian Lillard. You have Kevin Durant, who's looking to reclaim his throne him and LeBron were top 2 back and forth in the NBA for so long. He wants to get back to that number 2, try and get back to that number 1 spot.
Kevin Durant was better in 2017 and 2018 than LeBron. I will always say that.
I agree with that. But the reason I put the Bucks, Clippers, and Nuggets above them is just for the pure fact that I hope that Kevin Durant can come. I don't know if Kevin Durant can come back and be as explosive after an Achilles injury. I think he can be an incredible shooter, an incredible player that he always has been. We haven't seen him and Kyrie play yet. It seems like their chemistry is working out great. I mean, in the preseason, the pieces around them, I don't think Karis Levert fits with that team. I think Dinwiddie's great as a backup. I think having Jarrett Allen and DeAndre Jordan together is very, very weird. I've never been a fan of that. It seems like they really overpaid for Joe Harris to be that starting small forward and run Durant at power forward, unless they run Taurean Prince at power forward. I don't know what I'm going to expect from the Nets, and that's why I had to put them underneath solidified teams like the Nuggets, Bucks, and Clippers. Yeah. I also don't like Kyrie Irving because of that one shot in 2016. But yes, he's an incredible player, and I'll say that for however long I need to.
The Nets, there's one question: defense.
Yeah,
the team's gonna score 130 on you every single night, and that's why I honestly think defense isn't going to be the biggest concern for them. I think this team could not be a top 15 defensive team. I think they could be in the bottom half of defense and still be a top 3 team in the league because as long as their offense is as good as I think it's going to be. Kyrie, I mean, LeBron doesn't win 2016 without Kyrie. Kyrie was huge in that. He averaged over 25 points per game in that final series. I mean, Kyrie was insane. He's clutch. He's he's arguably the best ball handler of all time. Although I would probably put Iverson ahead of him, but that might be the Sixers.
I would not.
Great 3-point shooter, very clutch, just amazing scorer, right? Kevin Durant. Question the Achilles injury as you will. I think that'll affect his defense. I don't think his offense will be any different. And I mean, if you watch any of that, did you watch the Nets preseason game against the Wizards?
He's not different.
Durant looks the exact same. Like
I know.
I saw no difference in Kevin Durant. Yeah. Defense we'll see because I know that requires a lot of the mobility that the Achilles tendon was reliable on. So we'll see if I don't think he'll be the same defensive player he once was, which he was already a very underrated defensive player.
So underrated.
But even if he could bring back a little bit of that defense, I think combined with defensive prowess of Jordan and Allen down low, their interior defense won't be terrible. I know Dinwiddie and Levert aren't the best defensive guards either, but they managed to get it done the last couple of years. I mean, the Nets have always made the playoffs without having any really good stars. I mean, I know they had D'Lo a couple of years ago, but this last year they were the 7th seed in the East, and they didn't really have anyone. So I think they've got a good culture there. I like the Steve Nash coaching hire. I think that'll help bring it all together.
Yes, with D'Antoni and Damari Stoudemire.
Yeah, I mean, there's a really good coaching staff there. They've got all the pieces. I really always like when former players become coaches. I think that's a really good benefit for a team. It doesn't work in every scenario, but I think when it works really well. So I'm big on the Nets. I think they're going to win the championship this year.
Okay.
I do.
I think
Kevin Durant's my top 3 MVP candidates this year are Luka, Durant, and Devin Booker. And I think Durant's going to be right there. I think Durant's going to prove that he's a top player in the league, and I think he's going to go back to being a top 3 player in the NBA by the end of this season.
Yeah, I have Nets at 2nd in the East for regular season, but I have them coming out of the East. I have another Eastern Conference team above them in the power rankings, being the Milwaukee Bucks, which I think will probably be the next team we talk about. But
Let's go right to it. We can talk about the both at the same time. I mean, this is the top.
They match up. Those are the top two. I think undoubtedly the top two teams in the East right now, unless Miami makes the trade or Miami Jimmy Butler can average a 40-point triple-double in the playoffs and Bam Adebayo doesn't get hurt. But the Bucks and Nets are solidified top two teams in the East. The reason I right now have the Bucks over the Nets is just because they played together longer and Giannis is Giannis, and I don't think Kevin Durant can stop Giannis, and I don't think Giannis can stop Kevin Durant. But I think Drew Holiday can somewhat slow down Kyrie Irving. And with the pieces that Chris Middleton is an incredibly underrated player still. He's overpaid but underrated. That's how I look at Chris Middleton. Brook Lopez is still a 3 and D kind of center. Giannis. I mean, you just gave your top 3 MVP voting, and forget that Giannis just won 2 times in a row and is probably going to come out and average 30 and 14.
Only because of voter fatigue. If he hadn't won 2 in a row, he'd be right up there. I just think voter fatigue
exactly.
Normally.
So Bucks and Nets can really go either way. I have the Bucks a little bit ahead. You have the Nets, I believe. What do you have? The Bucks at 3?
I have Nets 1, Bucks 3, but I mean, I to me they're interchangeable. 1 through 3, I couldn't decide. That was tough for me. 1 through 3.
Yeah.
The order of them, I couldn't decide. It's tough.
So let's hear your opinion on Milwaukee.
So okay. I really like the Bucks this year. When we're talking about Kawhi Leonard revenge season, I think even more important is going to be Giannis's revenge season.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy who's won 2 MVPs in a row. This past season to me was his MVP. This past season was the most impressive of the last probably about 5 years or so. I think his MVP since probably Curry's 2016 when he was unanimous. I think this was the best one since then.
Yeah.
I mean, Giannis really averaged like almost 30 and 14.
Second highest rebounder in the league.
On the least amount of minutes in MVP history, I believe.
Crazy.
So, and they had the best record in the league. I mean, people forget that before the bubble, this was a team that was compared to the 70-win Warriors team, which was a bit of a stretch when you look at it in the end. But people were honestly thinking this could be a 70-win team.
Yeah.
And they got better. Drew Holiday made them better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this Bucks team is really, really freaking good. And if Kevin Durant wasn't in the East now, I think they'd be a lock to make it to the championship because I think Giannis is about to go off this year. I mean, maybe not in the regular season. Like, I think he'll do the same thing in the regular season he's been doing, which is
okay.
I mean, that's saying a lot.
That's MVP.
But I think this is when we see playoff Giannis really take form. We had the unfortunate occurrence of watching him get injured in the playoffs last year after scoring 19 points in the first 10 minutes of a playoff game against the Heat, which looked like a sure Bucks win, which they ended up winning that game still. But you never know how the rest of the series would have gone if Giannis had suited up. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Giannis is in for a huge postseason. I think this is the year Giannis really solidifies himself as a top 3, top 4 player. I'll tell you right now, the end of this season, you're talking best guys in the league are going to be Giannis, Luka, Durant, LeBron, Kawhi. That's your top 5. I think. I love Curry. I know, sorry, Warriors fan. I think he's going to be right outside of there, number 6 maybe. But I think Giannis is really going to make the jump. I think, especially once he gets a little bit of playoff success, which I think he'll get this year. I'm big on the Bucks.
Yeah, I've got them at 3rd. I got them 1st in the East, which scares me because I have the Heat at 4th in the East, which means if they both win their playoff series in the second round, that would be a Heat Bucks. And honestly, as a Warrior fan, I can only pray that the Heat beat out the Bucks in the second round again so that Giannis wants to come to Golden State. But yeah, those Milwaukee and the Nets are just, I mean, they're going to be going at it. I really hope we get an LA versus LA Western Conference and a Milwaukee versus Brooklyn Eastern Conference. I think that would be incredible to watch.
That would be something else.
I'd love to see, one thing I would love to see if we're going to talk real quick about the Eastern Conference is, I forgot to mention this when you were talking about the Brooklyn Nets, but since we kind of talked about them together, I would love to see a Wizards Nets first round. To see Westbrook go up against Durant in the first round. The Nets will win, obviously, most likely. But stuff like that would just be fun to see. Like I'd love it. I think Drew Holiday. What'd you say?
Westbrook and Durant, they're buddies now. They were talking, laughing together after the game the other day.
Yeah, it'd be a fun matchup. But Drew Holiday is such an upgrade for that team over Eric Bledsoe. Even though they overpaid for him because he's on a 1-year contract as of right now, and they gave up 5 first-round picks, I don't think that's really looked at that much, that they really gave up 5 of them. And so they're really banking on this season being their season, because if it's not, their future is kind of screwed.
Yeah.
And so
I'm interested to see how Drew Holiday does at point guard. He hasn't played point guard in the last, I think, 4 or 5 years since he was in New Orleans with Anthony Davis a couple years ago.
yeah.
He's normally been shooting guard in recent seasons, so it'll be interesting to see how he handles the transition back to point guard. I don't think it'll be a big change. I don't think it'll impact them that much, but it'll be interesting to see, because that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, so you got those 2 Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference, all in all, with Philly, Toronto, Boston, and everything, is going to be such a fun team. And so to end off with my number 1 team in the NBA, I have the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah.
Do you have them at 2? Oh, we got a comment.
Wants this trade update. Ben Simmons and 3 first.
Ooh, okay. So let's start with the beginning of this. So he talks about Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
I think Kyrie was not a good. I never liked the Kyrie fit. I'll bring it back up when we mention more of it. I never thought Kyrie was a good fit on the Boston Celtics, and I didn't think that was going to work out. They got rid of their MVP Isaiah Thomas, type player for that. Kemba Walker's a better chemistry fit, but Kyrie needed another star next to him. And Kevin Durant and Kyrie have been wanting to play together now for a year and a half. That chemistry is going to work out. I don't see it. I don't see any chemistry issues with Kyrie this season.
Yeah, I know the whole cancer in the locker room thing has been a kind of a shadow following Kyrie wherever he's gone, and it's very accurate. Like, he has been a cancer everywhere. It's no myth. It's not like Westbrook. It's always been a myth. Like, Westbrook has never had cancer issues. That's always been like a stereotype about him. Kyrie has actually had cancer problems in the past, and I this might be a bold take. I think you're right. I think it's gonna cease this year. I really think the Nets is gonna be Brooklyn's gonna be his home. I think him and Durant they've gotten along really well so far. I think it's gonna keep up, and I think they've got the pieces around him that I think they'll be able to work.
Yeah. Moving on to the next part of the comment. Ben Simmons and 3 first-round picks for Harden. Houston wants this in order to make it happen. Philly's not going to give that up. I'm sorry. Philly.
I don't even know if Philly would do Simmons for Harden straight up.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think that would be terrible for the Sixers. We've got so much development going with Simmons and Embiid. We're really looking to keep them together. I don't think this move would make sense.
Yeah. So, yeah, let's finish up with our last team. We've gone through all 30 teams. We've been on here for 2 hours and 10 minutes roughly. Want to thank everyone real quick for tuning in when everyone has. This has been our longest podcast, pretty much doubling our last 2 actually. And so thank you all for joining. And then we'll end it off by talking about the reigning champions, who somehow found a way to get better in the Los Angeles Lakers, with the acquisitions of Dennis Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell. It just looks like they look like they're bound to repeat. And I have them winning it all this season. I'm sorry to Eastern Conference teams, but LeBron's not slowing down. Let's be honest. Anthony Davis is Anthony Davis, and he's still probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year, in my opinion. I don't see that getting stopped. Dennis Schroeder, Caruso, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Marcus Gasol is going to be their starting center at the beginning of the year, and Harrell's going to come off the bench. And so I don't know. I don't think anyone's overtaking the throne.
It's amazing that LeBron is still the best player in the NBA. Like, first off, like, what the hell? Like, he's still the best player.
Like, come on, can someone else?
Let's go. Someone to step up for years and take over. Like,
yeah,
I thought it happened last year with Kawhi, and then I was proved ridiculously wrong.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say it again, though. This is the year. I think, at least on the Lakers, I think Anthony Davis will overtake LeBron as their first option. And I know you could argue that Anthony Davis was their first option this year, at least offensively and scoring-wise. But
he's not a better player.
No, not and people who were saying Anthony Davis should have won Finals MVP. No. And I'm not a LeBron fan. Like I love LeBron and I appreciate everything he's done, but I tend to get annoyed with people who like are all over LeBron. So LeBron easily deserved that Finals MVP. He was fantastic. He was amazing. Yeah. He did everything he needed to. I don't even think he gets enough credit for that ring. But I have a feeling this is the year Anthony Davis really overtakes him as the Lakers star, as their offensive, at least especially their offensive centerpiece.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think LeBron's going to start to take a step back this year. I still think they're the best team in the West. I have them at 2 overall. And yeah, they improved a lot. I mean, they're the favorites, right? They're the favorites.
Yeah.
I like to pick underdogs, which is why I got the Mets beating them. But case in point, right now the Lakers are pretty heavy favorites. I think to run it back. Yeah. This is their title to defend. Like
without any injuries, I'd be shocked.
No excuses. This is their title to defend. They have to go out and they have to take it. LeBron
they made their team better.
This year is going to be a lot more difficult than last year. With everyone's getting a lot better on them. Luka's improving. Kevin Durant's back. Steph Curry's back. Giannis has got more pieces around him now. Kawhi's in revenge mode. This is going to be a lot tougher than last year for the Lakers. They're not going to have a bit of a cakewalk like they had last year. But we'll see. I like the Lakers a lot this year, though. I think they're gonna come out of the West for sure. I just think whoever's waiting for them from the East is going to give them a challenge in the championship.
Yeah, I mean, I've got them at first on my power rankings. I don't think, at least right now, unless any big injuries or a trade happens or something like that, you really cannot. There's not going to be a team as of right now that'll dethrone the Lakers. Now, I'd love to see a LeBron and AD versus Kyrie and KD finals. I think that's kind of what we all hope for, is to see Kyrie and LeBron go at it. Yeah. But as of right now, LeBron's the unanimous best player in the NBA. He has been for the past 2 seasons. I put KD above him in a couple seasons ago.
But I'll take 2019 over.
Yeah, Lakers should win. I mean, yeah, I could definitely see. I remember LeBron said something because of all of Corona going on. He's like, as hard as in the beginning of the season. He's like, that's what I got Anthony Davis for, is to just carry the regular season.
It's AD's time. I think AD is gonna really step up as the number 1 man on that team this year. I agree with that.
Yeah, and so
that doesn't mean I'm discounting LeBron. I still think LeBron's gonna be LeBron's the guy. You know.
Yeah, we've been saying LeBron's gonna get dethroned for the past couple seasons, and now. Yeah, I mean, Giannis even came out.
There's no reason this shouldn't be the year to get it, because it's going to get even tougher after this. He's only getting older and teams are getting better. This is his year to get number 5, so he'll have his eye on that for sure.
Yeah, Giannis even came out and was like, "I will admit when I'm the best player in the league," and it's not right now, because it's right. Not. Yeah, he was right. It was good for him to say that, but. There we go. That wraps up 2 hours and 12 minutes in. We finally got through all 30 NBA teams. It's been crazy. We agreed on some stuff. We disagreed on some stuff. Had a same top 5, pretty interesting, and same bottom 4, I believe. So stuff like that's pretty fun to see. This season, man, it's going to be fun, and we're just getting closer and closer. Let's see. It's a week from today is the first game is to see. Yeah. So we'll probably end up doing a podcast within maybe 1 or 2 within the next week to get the rest of our off-season thoughts over with.
And I was gonna say I'm gonna be in Florida starting around Christmas through New Year, so I don't know if we'll be able to do any in that time.
Exactly. So we'll cram out some more for everybody. Also, videos will be going up on just my YouTube, stuff like that. We want to be giving you guys content on our opinions of the NBA, and so
we might do a little watch party. We maybe stream something while we're watching the first batch of games.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can get that going or so.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be good games. I believe it's Warriors Nets to start us. So
Nets starting off, and then Lakers Clippers right after.
I mean, that's a great, and even Christmas Day. I mean, it's awesome to be able to have games on Christmas Day. I mean, the games on Christmas are going to be so exciting too. I can't wait to see the jerseys they come out with for that, and all the stupid commercials and everything that they do. But the NBA is such a fun league to talk about, and that's what we're here to do. So, yeah, so thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you, Michael, for commenting so much. I mean,
appreciate it.
Really was huge for us. And that's going to wrap it up. So, yeah, thank you to I-95 for having us. And we will see you guys sometime in the next week. You will get the Facebook notification, hopefully. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook. And obviously, Bobby Blackjack, thank you for letting us do this in the first place. And that wraps up our 30-1 NBA rankings. And we will see you guys in the next week.
Have a good week, everyone.
Peace out, everyone.